now hit the button. We are now streaming.
I don't believe you.
Well, that's your business. Because I've done it. We've hit the button. We're here. My voice settings look like they've changed a little. So that's cool and fun. Hopefully it's all fine. Oh right, we're here.
Oh, I could quickly peek the stream.
Would you?
That'd help.
That'd be lovely.
Ah, you sound fine.
Oh, okay. It just looks like I'm louder than normal, but we should be fine. It should be fine.
It genuinely sounds fine. It sounds
Okay. Perfect.
levels is fine.
Cool. That's all we need to know.
I did realize I'd said it sounds fine like right after you sneezed the first time, so that was potentially an unhealthy assessment. An inaccurate assessment.
Well, if my sneeze didn't blow out someone's eardrums, then I consider that fine and good and
Yeah,
fine.
my ears are fine.
They have not exploded. And that's great. Alright. We are in the hospital. I don't remember what our overall goal was. There's something circled in the exam room. And there's lots of doors I haven't checked. Why did I skip so many doors? I know that there's lots of nurses in the hallway, which is bad and not good. As it's bad tends to mean.
Yeah, some of them have guns.
Yeah,
It's
there's
a whole problem.
It's not ideal.
I think so far them having guns has been more like scary than dangerous, because if you just don't stop moving, they don't get a chance to shoot you.
Exactly, but it is still terrifying that there is a nurse with a pistol running around ready to shoot me in the face. I don't like that. Can't say I'm a fan.
Yeah.
Forgot we didn't check out the notebook that our dad left us. I'm reading the actual notebook in the background. I like that it's B5 size, 40 seats.
40 seats.
And then
40
it's
seats, papers.
Slizdakathud intelligent notebook. So that's cool. Thanks, Slizdakathud.
Flurred. I think that's an L.
Is it an L? It might be an L. Slizdakathud. That's too many. That's too many everything.
It's a lot. It's Welsh. It's a lot of consonants.
My God. All right.
Famous Welsh notebook company.
I hope this will never come to any use. Maybe it's better if you never know. More than anything else, I fear the possibility of your going away, far from me. Dad, you're the one who left us. But sometimes we have to tell the truth. That's why I'm writing this, before I'm lost in death and oblivion. What happened back then? That has something to do with who you are. It all started 24 years ago. Coming back from a vacation, my wife and I found a baby on the side of the highway. Since we were childless, we thanked God for letting us meet this child, this girl. We took her home. 3 years later, my wife died, and another 4 years later, 17 years ago, thank you, Harry, for doing all of that weird math for us, I came to Silent Hill. I heard the girl's pleas and took her with me, and not knowing why she wanted us to go there. And it was there that the girl went away. Not that she actually went anywhere, nor did she die. Returned to her original self. That's what Dahlia Gillespie said. Original self. That was the young woman burned by her mother as a sacrifice to God. Alessa Gillespie. Half her soul escaped in those flames and went on to live in a baby. In that girl of mine. Of ours. 7 years passed before that half a girl returned to Silent Hill. Sorry. Why would you describe her like that?
Well, rude.
Yeah, for real.
I mean, it is a confusing situation, and Harry doesn't really have time for wizard shit.
I mean, 100%, but come on.
He's trying his best.
7 years passed before that half a girl returned to Silent Hill and made Alessa whole again. Newly strengthened, she vowed to kill God. Girl, you and me both.
Yeah.
God, a fetus nestled into the sacrificial girl's womb, was summoned with the usual rites. This was Alessa's wish, no matter what the outcome, even if her own existence were at stake. But that wish was not granted. My interruption meant she prayed instead for the girl's return. I alone couldn't bring her back. This is more or less like confirmation that the good plus ending is not.
Yeah, I was gonna ask.
Is not the canon ending. It is just the good ending.
Incubator is the last boss that Ken and Harry fought, not Incubus.
Not Incubus.
Right? Never actually saw the demon.
Nope. God remained dormant, I guess. No lightning from his fingertips for Harry, which is good.
Yeah.
Dahlia did it. I only helped at the birthing ceremony to bring God out of Alessa. The newly born God wailed once and was dead, all from that girl's, and probably Alessa's, conscious resistance. That's not the end. After God had vanished in a glow of light, Alessa reappeared and gave me a baby. She looked a lot like that girl so long ago. And then Alessa was gone, dead. There was nothing I could have done to help. I simply clutched the baby to my chest and ran off. The whole thing felt like a dream, but I had proof that it wasn't the girl, that it wasn't. The girl was nowhere to be found, and in my arms, the baby that, period after was very tiny. Now 17 years have passed. Feels like only yesterday, and again, it feels like a million years ago. I confess I had reservations at first about raising that baby. Could I love her? Her existence was thoroughly unexplainable. I thought she could be that young woman who snatched away my beloved daughter. That led to sadness, anger. There were times when I put my hands around her tiny little throat. Several times I even considered abandoning her. That's what a terrible person I am. But I decided to raise her after all. Just couldn't seem to let her go. When you look at me, you laugh, so even now I can't forget about that girl. But I love you. I have no doubts about that. That's all I ask you to believe. My precious daughter, Harry Mason. Harry, you're not a bad dad. It's fine. Harry, you're perfect. So we don't really have like any items. I think if I use this, the nurses will like, stop aggroing me. Emmy, hello.
It'd be nice if the nurses would stop aggroing.
Right? We would love to not get attacked by nurse. Just nurse. Oh, right. I know what we're doing. We just got to the Otherworld hospital. That's why nothing is checked. I remember. Alright. Yeah, it's Meat Out. Welcome to Meat Hell, everyone.
It's me out.
Alright. So that's why I don't know what we're doing, because we don't know what we're doing. Just as a whole. Camera, please. We ran through the tunnel after Leonard said, hey, come find me. And we were like, yeah, sure, I guess. And now we're here. And now you're caught up on everything that happened. Hope that helped.
Yeah. We
God!
went through a lot of tunnels that seem to go like way off the side of the hospital and out into the middle of nowhere.
Stop grabbing!
Slurper?
It's Slurper.
Getting slurped.
I'm getting slurped. I don't want to get slurped. Excuse me. Oh, horrible. Bad.
Oh, it's this room.
Yep. It won't open.
Still stuck.
It's just all going over here. What's happening here? Why are you doing this thing? Yeah, it's a problem. Oh boy, sure is squelchy out.
I do, really like how reality starts to break down when you're in Silent Hill in this one. You did a really good job of escalating right to the end.
Right?
Right at the
That's
end.
very good. Okay, well... We're red now.
Oh yeah.
Can we leave now? Stop! Slurpers, no! I've gone the wrong way, please! I need them to not slurp. This is a slurp-free zone. Okay, we go in here. Where are the stairs? It's true, they need to go slurp somewhere else. Preferably as far away from me as possible. Okay, I see where the stairs are. I understand stairs. Yeah, it's not there. I understand stairs, but do I know how to get to them? Barely.
we know of stairs in like a book learning kind of way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right about stairs.
What do you mean I don't have a map of this area? Heather!
That's fine. We just ran around a little bit and got slapped.
Yeah. Okay. Well. That's alright. I don't know why we weren't even facing it, and then she said, no, I'm gonna turn towards it. I had my hand off the controller at that point. Just as a heads up. Oh, fuck, I have to touch all the doors again.
It's fine. We've touched the doors on that side past the dare room. They're all bad. They're all bad
They
doors.
are all bad. It's true. You're right. Okay, so this is the room that I don't have a map of. Right?
Oh, does this not lead to the stairs and instead lead to the hallway of awfulness?
Yeah, so that's how we got here. I remember now. Where do I... There's a thing in exam room 4. There's a circle in exam room 4, and I think we should go look at that.
Yeah, makes sense.
What's in here? Right.
Oh, it's the bucket of blood.
It is the bucket of blood. You're right. It is a full-on bloodletting. Correct. We need to do a thing. I don't think I checked the storeroom in the horrible...
Might have missed storeroom.
Horrible slurper hallway. So that's a bit upsetting. As a whole. But, Heather!
Please don't go down.
Okay, storeroom. Oh wait, no, that's where this happens.
Oh, okay, we did check the storeroom.
I mean, it's kind of important that we continue to check it. She has more blood on her shirt in mirror than she does IRL. Well,
it gets even worse in a minute, I think.
It does. It's horrible. Can't believe it. I don't want to have to listen to the Slurpee again, but what can you do?
Why slurping in this game?
So much slurping. Why is Silent Hill 3 so slurpy? I got some questions.
If you do just stay in this room, by the way, you do start to die.
Yep.
You want to leave as soon as you're able.
Can't do it until the walls get funky. Look at her go! Oh, I've made her tired.
Oh no. She's gonna be tired in the bad place.
There we go.
Gives you long enough to try and get out that like you don't kill you fast, and it makes it obvious it's hurting you.
Mm-hmm.
But you do gotta get out of there.
It's bad in there, you should leave. Speaking of, have I healed since we reloaded? Absolutely not. let's go. Why are there so many basements? Just go down by a floor.
Yeah.
Check out each floor. And go from there. Horrible slurpers? Y'all slurping around here? Oh, what? About to ask, what was the horrible slurpy jerky thing we were talking about last time? And honestly, I don't want to remember.
You can put jerky down for the slurpers and they'll come slurp the jerky.
But we had a horrible... No, it was Slurpy Jerky Miss. That's what it was. That was the horrible phrase we...
I mean, it was you who came up with it, and then you changed the stream title to it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Sorry I did that. It wasn't good. I shouldn't be allowed to do things like that.
You tell that to pass, Cash.
I can't. They're unstoppable.
They're out of control.
They are, honestly. Proper menace. Hello?
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
That is the correct response, Heather.
Happy birthday, dear. Oh, I forgot your name.
Who are you?
Oh, okay, thanks. Happy birthday, dear. Who are you? Happy birthday to you. Happy 31st birthday.
Is this Leonard?
That's the murderer's name, not my name. I'm not your beloved Stanley either.
We don't like Stanley here.
He's underground now. His new name is...
No one likes Stanley.
Number 7.
He is a bad man.
But don't
Glad
worry
he's
about
underground.
that now. It's time to celebrate your birthday.
You've got me mistaken for someone else. Today's not my...
I'm not mistaken. Today is your 24th birthday. And I have a present for you. Which do you prefer? To give pain or to receive it? You can have the one you hate the most.
This is a horrible birthday gift.
Yeah.
Do you have a return receipt for that?
Birthday to you.
But you're wrong. It's not my birthday.
Heather, I don't think that's the most upsetting part about that conversation. But I mean, you do you, boo. Alright, where are we? Locker room. Oh god. You wiggle.
That's wig.
Got a plastic bag. And a health drink. Anything else in there? It's nothing important in the trash. Hey. Something strange is cooped up in the locker. Yeah, we won't get too close. What's this? Paper bag here with nothing but garbage inside.
That is a 2-dimensional bag.
It's not a great bag. Do I use the plastic bag on the blood?
That does seem possible.
Well, since we're here, we're not too far from it. We are just gonna go.
Yeah.
Just
okay,
gonna go
there we
check. Just go take a little peek. And maybe also save, because I am scared Heather's gonna throw herself off a ledge again. Still more powerful than the short message. Great.
Is that the new cell in the hole?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not good.
It's not good. It's in fact quite bad.
It's pretty bad.
Got
I did
scared.
like John played it and is immediately like, huh, this is gonna blow. This is very generic and boring.
Hey, this reminds me of this one bad indie game that I played.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something. Alright, we have blood. Do I give blood to the strange thing cooped up in the locker? I genuinely do not remember. Fuck off! Horrible.
They didn't
Horrible
knock on you
slurs.
afterwards to do that
That's true.
sometimes.
They do, and it's rude, and I hate it, and I don't appreciate them stomping all over me. Do they not know I'm nice, actually? Because I'm here to tell you, I'm nice, actually. Women's locker room, right? Fuck off!
Bloodman,
That
feeling
feeling
when
when-
they. Sorry.
No, go for it!
No, you go for it.
No, you go for it!
No, you.
I can't
go
use
for
that
it.
here. Fine. That feeling when they don't even know. They don't know you're nice. Actually, it's tragic. And I am a little hurt by it. Actually.
Slightly physically hurt. You need a health drink.
Yeah, it's true. I took some mild physical damage because of that. Okay.
So weird and bad. It's Silent Hill in this one.
Yeah.
In Otherworld Silent Hill.
Get up, Heather. Heather, you have to get up. Okay, back to the elevator. Oh god. Let's go.
This is the one where they like went all out on the Silent Hilliness.
Well, it's the one that they have like the technology to do it for,
Yeah.
and like the reason to, because like with
Yeah.
2, there is some reason to have like it does also escalate towards like, you know, Otherworld, and it just gets worse as you go on and stuff like that, but it's still not quite as horrible as it is here.
It's a lot more tonally. It's a lot more somber and less.
Less just, hey, holy shit, this is fucked up.
It does do some
It's-
cool things with the other world, but it's more subdued, more reserved.
Yeah. Okay, sorry, I'm constantly checking my... Who is heavy breathing over here?
I think we have to make corrections on the map because the walls have moved.
Right? You want to look in there, Heather? Oh, it's a nurse. Right! The nurse is heavy breathe. I remember. The world is teeming with unnecessary people. It's God's decision that I fight. As a knight of honor, as a protector of the seal, I sacrifice myself to the blood of criminals. You should probably not. Who wrote this? Some twisted individual, eh? See this and I want to ask him. So you think you're one of the necessary ones? But it seems like I've heard this protector of the seal business somewhere before. Hi, nurse. Can you not? I just wanted to see if I could annoy her. Alright, well, that's that room.
That's that new room.
What a cool new room. No!
a bit rude they'll let you run off the edge and die.
For real! And it's like, it'll do that even if you're not necessarily pressing forward sometimes. Sometimes she just says, yeah, I'm just gonna go. And it's like, Heather, please. Ma'am. Lock is broken. Heather. Anything worth getting in here? No, it's just a nice quiet room. You know what? I can respect that.
Yeah.
I'm fine with this.
You have somewhere to get away from the slurpers.
It's
Just have a minute to yourself.
Fuck off! Man.
Oh, we're having a bit of trouble with the nurses. They always get stunned when you'd like.
Okay, I think I see blood coming out of her. Yeah, they like... Their recovery time between stuns is very wild. So even if you hit them a whole bunch, they're only like 2 of those hits are gonna stun them, and even then it's not great. Also, Midkiff is a wild name. Please use extra caution with the patient in room 312. He should still have his religious freedom here in the hospital, but he shouldn't push his faith on others. I'm a victim too. Rumor has it he got here by stabbing someone over a religious dispute. Please be careful. R. Crosby. P.S. Looks like the rumor is true, according to the head nurse. I do think he's a good person otherwise, though. Easy to deal with. You know, aside from, like, the religious fanaticism,
other than the occasional stabbing, he's pretty cool.
He's alright. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Can't go in there. It's at 312? Well, I mean, we're not on the 3rd floor anymore. We go in 312?
We can't get to 312.
Yeah, okay. That's fine. I was just curious. But I do need to look at this again, just so I know what way I'm going. Left to the visiting room. Okay. Great. I guess we go down to the basement.
We got 3 of them to choose from.
Fuck off. That nurse has a gun! That nurse has a gun! Nurse with a gun!
Classic nurse with a gun song.
Sometimes you just have to sing your way away from Nurse with a Gun.
You never know when there's gonna be a Cash song.
It's true.
Because it could be for Nurse with a Gun, or it could be for I Saw a Nice Goat.
Listen, I was a real nice goat. Fucking love goat here.
I love Goat, yeah.
We love goat.
You don't
here.
love Nurse with a Gun.
No, Nurse with a Gun is bad, and I would very much prefer it if she just went away forever. She said Stanley was 7, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Sorry.
7 is occupied by the looks of it.
Yeah. Let's just take a peek at this. Right. 4 numbers. Hey Stanley. Excuse me?
Fuck you just said, Stanley.
Horrible
Are
noises.
there 4 bodies?
I think so. So 7, 8, 5, 0?
Yeah.
7, 8, 5, 0. Wrong way. Oh, okay. It only goes one way. 7, 8, 5, 0? 0, 5, 8, 7?
Hmm.
7, 8, 5, 0. We can't. I am trying to interact with them. That's not allowed. Can I look at the actual. Thank you. Okay.
Oh, okay. 1, 2, 4. 2, 1, 4, 3.
So 8, 7, 0, 5. 8, 8, 7, 0, 5. 8, 7, 0,
Yeah.
5. Heather! 8. Oh god. 7. Oh fuck. 0.
You're losing frames here, Kish.
I know.
Oh,
Just
he's
that-
missed inputs.
Can't believe I've done this. There goes world record pace.
We're not on world record pace anymore. Can make it up with Pyramid Head Skip.
Hello, Lily.
Hi,
Go,
Lily.
go do what you gotta do, Emmy. We'll be here if you want to come back. Okay, we have a key. Have we come across any locked doors? Not. Yes, day
Don't.
room. I got a Lily runt. Lily
Oh,
runt.
okay.
Right over here. Right
Yeah,
there.
it took me
First
ages
floor.
to find the day room.
That's fair. There is a lot going on this floor.
I just crossed out the old room and drawn in the new room in different pens.
I mean, it's good to be organized. Make sure you understand the map that you're reading. I get it.
Harry always taught her. Always make a map of everywhere you go and be very thorough about that map. Try every door that you ever pass.
What a good dad. Okay. We use the cremated key. Oh fuck. Okay. We are on the side where the nurse is.
Yeah.
Which means I don't got time to fuck around.
I'll do it.
It's just that easy.
Yeah.
I am gonna keep the katana equipped because as a melee weapon, it is very good, except for the fact that you can't hit low enemies, but usually you can just run past those guys. Fuck off!
Other
No.
than the nurses, anything it can hit can sunlock until they die.
Yeah!
Happy first birthday.
Happy first birthday. Fuck off! Damn, I'm trying to look at things!
Pushing you over.
It's horrible!
Gun there.
Nope!
That's with the gun. Pause, taking moments before disaster.
Can't believe she's done this to me. Fuck off!
Yeah, the slurpers are unhelpful. Please slurpers.
Fuck off! My god, he zoomed!
You find no help for me. Okay.
No, we weren't.
okay.
Okay,
We're like
okay.
grand health, but you know.
there are enough enemies in there that if I got downed again, I was scared that it was gonna just end up being bad as a whole, and I didn't want to risk it.
That's
Bam! Oh.
oh god,
fuck.
there's 3. Heather.
Please, ma'am. Oh my god. Well, there's a lot of health items over there, so that's great. This was a horrible room.
It's not the most pleasant room.
I did not appreciate it. Oh, what was that? Something about birthday? And now funny sounds. There's something on the ground. Is this a birthday card? Happy 38th birthday! 14 plus 7 plus 17 is 38. Is 38? But it's not my birthday.
He is doing multiples of 7.
Yeah. Which, I mean, makes sense. Considering most of Alessa's ages are multiples of 7s.
Yeah, both of them.
Fuck off. It's so hard to tell where there is a door. Oh my god.
It's kind of hard to tell where there's a guy.
Yeah. Oh, so she marked that there was... Okay. It would have been nice for her to tell me that that was the case. Safe room. We love that. Let's read the lost memories. One characteristic mentioned only in rare documents and dying out in the modern age is that of the ritual sacrifice. Offering prayers, pierce a man's chest with a copper stake, drench the altar in the blood which spouts red from the heart, to praise and to show loyalty to God.
It's a showy.
To shoy. In another sacrificial rite mentioned in the same book, the victim is burned alive. This was a more dignified ceremony in which prisoners and sinners were not allowed to participate. Only the clergy could be sacrificed. Similar to burning at the stake, no comparable rite can be found in religions practiced nearby. May have some connection with the main deity being a sun god. Even though this religion extols redemption, it brings to mind a dark and cultish history. Great, thanks. You want me to slosh some blood around? I can do that.
We got blood to slosh.
Yeah, I got slosh-worthy blood. Let's go. We slosh. Slosh.
Plastic bag with blood.
It's an important distinction to make, as opposed to plastic bag with nothing. Or plastic bag with noodles.
How many noodles come in a bag?
I don't know how you would know.
Someone could work this out for us.
Taskmaster, kinda good. We just saved. I can slosh some blood around again if I need to.
Yeah.
And we can skip the cutscene, so, like, it's fine. I have so much water in her boots.
Yeah. It's fine, it'll wash out the sewage from earlier.
Oh,
Or the stagnant water from the hell dimension.
Where are you?
Thank you. Now I can finally leave here.
Leonard, you're
Now
so
Claudia's
quiet.
ridiculous dream is over. Well, I guess it's time to dispose of her. The salvation of all mankind. Ha! Why must we reward even the unbelievers?
What are you talking about?
About our plans, of course. It's true that God is merciful, but first, one must be chosen. Only we, who hearken to the voice of God, will be given the keys to paradise. Don't you think so, Heather?
Yeah, sure.
Whatever you say, old man.
What do you mean by that?
I mean that I don't think the way you guys do. I don't want any part of that kind of paradise.
You're an unbeliever. You deceived me.
I didn't deceive you. We were both just wrong about each other. I thought you were a normal person.
Sorry. Man, I thought you were like
Trick me so you can
not
run off
totally
with my
insane.
seal, eh? Heretic! You plan to destroy God!
I told you I wasn't trying to trick anyone. What is this seal thing anyway?
Don't play innocent. You can't fool me anymore. The seal is mine! I was appointed by God to be its guardian! The only thing you'll get from me is a gruesome death.
Yeah, okay, buddy.
Leonard? Is that you?
Death to all who turn their backs on God!
Is every person here on mental case? Well, I guess you're not a person anyway.
I fucking love Heather. Ah!
Sassed him out.
Yeah,
Oh, lad.
not having it. Fuck. Leonard, you're kind of a big guy. No! No!
His abilities include slashing and nipping.
Horrible. Can't believe Leonard is like this. Leonard, no! Fuck.
Just got you.
I mean, that seemed like a slash, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
Not a nip?
I don't know how he'd nip with these big knife hands. But apparently he has a way.
Fuck!
Oh no.
Get up! Heather! 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 Heather, please! Heather, please! Okay, oops. How many bullets? 47. I missed. Heather, you have to aim down. Right in the butt.
Look at that butt.
Where did he go? Fuck. There's enough space for you there, Heather. I promise.
guessing like you can swing with either arm, so you can't like bait him into doing a stab and then dash past him.
Yeah, no, it's not happening.
It's got some oomph as that mall. It says
It
so in the
does.
description.
I did see that. I was trying to like gauge by description which one might be more powerful.
The mace definitely does more damage, but I think the katana has more DPS.
Yeah. Fuck. Leonard. Your arms are longer than mine, and I think that's a little bit rude. Just want to reload everything just to make sure that it is reloaded, actually.
I'm guessing we can't make Leonard celeb jerky.
No, I don't think he'd be quite as enticed by it as we would like him to be. Oh my god.
This was very big.
It's horrible. Ugh. We're so slow in the water. Like, I understand why, but also, please.
Doesn't actually really have to dodge if, say, a big long man keeps swinging his long arms at you.
Right? How hurt are we? Pretty hurt. I don't think any one of those hit.
It's fine. It's fine. We're getting this done. Oh, those hit. Those are doing it.
Fuck. Come on, Leonard.
Is Heather's like powerful weapon the submachine gun?
I don't think so. I think it's like really good at stunning, but it doesn't do like a ton of damage. I think.
Did you get like a equivalent to the rifle?
Oof.
I mean,
Not-
it's fine. I'm just talking. Just
Yeah.
saying what. This is the move. Oh.
Okay, great. I've been very hesitant to use the guns in general just because I'm scared about the final boss and not having enough ammo is the big thing, but also Leonard has a lot of health.
Yeah, we needed it there.
We tried to be as sparing as possible. I think we did okay. And we're more or less done with the hospital, I think. We got the seal of Metatron.
Leonard's not here anymore. I guess I should head back to the motel now. I hope Douglas is okay.
I'm sure he's fine.
Huh? What's this?
We got Talisman.
Hey.
It has an odd design inscribed on it. I got it after I defeated Leonard.
It's Leonard's talisman.
It's Leonard's talisman.
It's our talisman now.
Leonard doesn't get shit.
No.
Reload everything. Thank you. we need that on. We need to go this way. Oh, wrong door. We did it. We did the hospital. Hooray! want to say Heather gets a rifle, but I cannot confirm.
You send her to my
That's fine.
father.
Was that wrong?
It's your fault that he.
But surely it's a good thing.
It's our boy Vincent.
It means he was one of God's beloved, no?
Those who mock God will never receive salvation. You'll go to hell, Vincent. You'll never feel the joy of God's everlasting paradise.
And you think God is going to save you? Ha!
What do you know anyway?
I know about the pleasures of this world. And I want to find my happiness while I'm still here. You hated your father, didn't you? I saw the way he hit you, and kicked you, and made you cry. The memory of his cruelty is forever burned into my mind.
Yes, and that's why we need God.
What you call faith is nothing more than a child crying out for love. That's why you're all alone.
You don't understand. None of you do.
Well. Are we loading game? Okay.
Yeah,
Started getting a little concerned. But it's fine. Probably should have stopped into the doctor's office and saved, but
we said right before Leonard, it's fine. Horrible. It's not fine.
Oh look, it's Heaven's Night. Oh look, we can go into Heaven's Night. Silent Hill 2, anyone? Was that
Never heard of it.
bullets? That would have been
Look
shotgun
like
shells.
shotguns? Yeah.
That's why we came in here, actually. Heather? Heather?
There might be
It's a
something
tourism
there.
pamphlet. What do you mean? I'd forgotten it, but it's true. Silent Hill was originally a resort town. Welcome to Silent Hill! Silent Hill, a quiet little lakeside resort town. We're happy to have you. Take some time out of your busy schedules and enjoy a nice restful vacation here. Row after row of quaint old houses, a gorgeous mountain landscape, and a lake which shows different sides of its beauty with the passing of the day, from sunrise to late afternoons to sunset. Silent Hill will move you and fill you with a feeling of deep peace. I hope your time here will be pleasant and your memories will last forever. Well, it'll definitely be unforgettable. Editor, Roger Widmark. Thanks, Roger. What a time. Alcohol. First aid kit, and I guess some jerky.
Should have
That's
used
fine.
more jerky in the slurpers on.
Don't want to encourage the slurpers to congregate around us.
And we can't go to the kiss room.
No kiss for us.
Don't you want to meet Kiss?
No,
The Demons of Rock?
I don't actually think so. The return of Lady Maria. 8 p.m. on the 27th. Said that she had long black hair, though. Probably a wig, actually. As I say that, I understand that hair can change. I know things. Oh god. Oh god! Why are the dogs howling? Oh, that's why. Also,
Yeah,
look, it's the wall where Laura was and told James off on. So I want to look for
This is where
items.
James got on. And over there's where James got on. Over there's where James got on.
This is actually what Silent Hill is as far as tourism is concerned, is you just go on a tour to see where all the places where Laura just fucking owned James. Don't jump at me. Don't jump at me. Don't jump at me. Don't jump at me.
I bet the howls are just so when you're in the fog and you can't see him. It's why it's new.
It's true.
I've really enjoyed how they've like used sound to let you know what's around you when it's hard to see throughout the game.
It's so good. I like.
It's a very elegant solution to the problem of like the camera having trouble in like narrow spaces and you being in narrow spaces a lot, and then there being a lot of fog when you go outside. Just make the sound cues really good so you can tell exactly what's happening around you.
Right? No, the sound design in 3 in particular is just like very, very good. I don't need to be here now. Fuck. Heather, you're gonna get us killed.
Bad,
No, but it's just
particularly good in this one.
Especially since it is like, I mean, it's incredibly noticeable by comparison to like the HD collection, but the fact that the fog is thick and it's not just, I mean, like with the first one, it's used because, you know, draw distance wasn't great, and so they used it to mask it, but it was also like really oppressive and really great for setting the tone.
Yeah.
But like you were able to see well enough that like things couldn't necessarily sneak up on you in the same way that they could now.
Other than the, I don't know, other than the like pterodactyls, he can outrun all of the enemies. Can Harry, and the pterodactyls are the ones that have like a very distinct sound cue. It's less necessary there.
Yeah, but it's just they really leaned into enemy sounds, and I really like it. And it's just very good.
Actually, there's the big jumping boys who make horrible noises. Silent one has pretty good sound too, but
it's used slightly different. We're here for it. Which room? 106? 106. I know, I made you run so much. I'm sorry. You're not Douglas.
Where's Douglas?
He went out. But he left a message for you.
Was there someone else here just now?
No, just me. Don't you want to know what the message is?
Yeah, what did he say?
The church is on the other side of the lake.
Church? Wonder what he meant by that.
Well, you know, there are these buildings where people go to worship
Where
sometimes.
Claudia is. Across the lake. On the north side. If you're going, you better go through the amusement park. It's probably the only way in now. Go northwest on Nathan Avenue. It's a bit far. But closer than heaven.
No, we were just there, actually.
Message?
And I think it's closer than the amusement park.
Thanks. Douglas really said that?
What's wrong? You don't trust me?
No. Absolutely not.
I trust him.
Listen, I love my wiggly man, but he is a piece of shit.
He doesn't come over particularly trustworthy.
No. You don't trust me?
Something just
Bro.
slightly off about that guy. It might be everything he says and does.
Might be just everything about him. Also, welcome back at me. We like being clean. Oh, it's dogs. Oh, it's dogs. I love Vincent, but yeah, kind of a garbage human. Definitely presents himself in like the most sketchy way possible. The dog noises are terrifying, but they gotta let you know where they are. It's just so foggy.
Thanks, Doc. Vikna is the most trustworthy person. What do you mean?
Listen, I would trust him to stab me and do a murder. It's true. When somebody says trust me, you're just immediately like, ah yeah, you're fine, you're cool. Zero reason to be concerned. It's true, it is still trust, but like, you know, a trust of betrayal. Listen, we know the kinds of characters that I like. And I trust them to do one of two things. We got the tummy aches. We got the other world tummy aches.
It's all the floor jerky.
It's horrible. We should stop eating the floor jerky, I think. Heather has survived so many tummy aches. It's a giant rabbit costume. Isn't this the mascot from the local amusement park? I don't want to look inside. Something in there smells terrible. This game definitely did not help my dislike for rabbits. Robbie Rabbit, kinda horrifying. not the slug. Please. That was a precarious way to go. Never again. Oh, can't go under there. Alright, understood. Please stop eating floor jerky. It is bad for you. Your doctor's gonna get very upset at you if you continue to eat floor jerky. Don't do it. There's no reason to be- oh fuck. Oh shit. It's fine. Lock is broken. Lock is broken. I'm very glad the lock was not broken on this one. Oh, that would have been very not good for me. I do want a Robbie hat, though. Horrible as it is.
It's a good, horrible rabbit.
Yeah, well, thought I saw a thing there. It is. It's just, it's this awful little guy. Who, well, I can't say I love him. I don't. I absolutely despise him, but...
You hate to see.
I do. There's, Heather, there is jerky right there. Thank you. Please, grab the jerky.
Oh, giving up on floor jerky?
I mean, I have to... Listen! We are! The thing is, y'all aren't, and I have to protect you! This... Excuse me. This is for your own good. I have... Oh. It's a safe spot.
Oh, nice.
I have to collect all of the jerky so no one else can eat it. No more floor jerky. Pyramid Head isn't doing shit to clean up this town, so I will.
He put the slurpers out. That's their job.
He's done a horrible
He hired
job.
the slurpers.
Terrible.
To get rid of all the rust-colored blood and bits of meat.
They're doing a terrible job, and they are more of a menace than they are helpful. Oh god. Okay. It is, though! I feel like...
Pyramid Head's the mayor of Silent Hill.
Yeah! This is his job, and he's doing a bad job. Vote Heather for mayor of Silent Hill.
Yeah.
She's got this. Poor Pyramid is such a mental load dealing with all of Silent Hill weaponized incompetence. He's too busy trying to take care of the likes of dudes like James to really focus on the job at hand.
Yeah, that's the attack ads coming out about how long he spent messing around with James are really hurting his chances of re-election.
It's true. Listen, if Heather becomes mayor, I'm sure she'd let Pyramid Head be on as like head of security or something. We wouldn't vote him as police chief because ACAB, but we would have him help clean up the streets of the likes of James and his ilk. You know, mediocre men that kill their wives. Yes, it could be someone's leg.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Just someone's leg.
Power, we gotta turn it off. Heather, please. Okay. We don't have a map, and it really fucking sucks, and I think I might have missed it.
Oh, jeez.
And I need to stop running. For that exact reason. We stomp.
I feel like we've been here before.
It's fine, we turned it off. It's not like anyone could ever turn it back on.
I remember this.
Getting the
Having a
oddest
premonition.
sense of deja vu.
Yeah.
Oh. You ever feel like you've been in a situation before? No? Me neither. There you go, Heather. She's learning. She's evolving.
I hired you to find the girl, and you performed serviceably. What is it now?
You lied to me about Heather, lady. I don't like being used.
Lie? What lie?
That Heather was kidnapped from you.
But it's true. She was originally one of us. That man, Harry Mason, stole her away and kept
You
her
get
hidden
his
from
name
us.
out of your mouth.
Yeah, but she says she was happy.
She was brainwashed by him, deceived, because her true self had not yet awoken. She carries God within her.
Do you think
But when
Do you think
Elsa,
Claudia's up on her
Mother of God,
tetanus
truly
shots?
awakens,
Considering she's walking
Oh,
around
no, I hope so.
barefoot
What's gonna happen?
on all this
she will
rusty
usher
metal.
in the eternal paradise.
I'm just worried about her
What kind of place
tootsies.
is that?
A place
Lady,
with
you
no
wear
pain,
shoes here, please.
no hunger, no sickness, no old age. There will be no greed or war, and all will live by God's grace alone.
No this, no that, no nothing. A paradise for castrated sheep, maybe.
Got her.
Sounds pretty boring.
Should have just called her a fart face.
You still don't understand.
Ain't everyone being incinerated to death part of this paradise? Like, even in the, like, law.
Going to kill me?
just some of
Is
them.
it really so
Okay.
easy for you?
I've done it before.
Then I truly do pity you.
I think it's mostly that they don't quite understand what it is that they're actually like summoning or bringing into existence or pulling into our reality,
Yeah.
and are just assuming that it's gonna be a nice thing, and or
Well,
are masking it to be a nice thing when really it's not.
It's like an actual paranormal thing that they can actually have contact with, so like... It makes sense that they'd worship it, because it's a god that is provably real. It's just not necessarily a god that wants to be a god for anyone, and it doesn't do nice things.
Yeah. What's this blue thing? Oh, it's a light. Okay. Yeah, it's not great. Haunted mansion. I like this. I like this bit. Actually, I'm gonna just peek around over here to see if there are any items that they're hiding from me. I don't think there are, but what if there are? There's not. There absolutely is not. Okay. Well, glad we took the time to check into that.
Welcome to the Borley Haunted Mansion. We're so glad you came. Please come inside and look around. When you feel you're ready, then go through the door.
Ready
Help!
way ahead of him.
Help! Do you hear those voices? A family of 4 was sliced into bloody pieces in this room. Ah, the cries of the children. The murderer was caught. Do you know why he said he killed his family? Because I felt I had to! Anyway, I'm lying. It's all just a joke.
Good one.
I wanted to scare you, that's all.
More like
The
the
truth is,
poorly
only
haunted
one
mansion.
person died.
Got him.
Suicide.
Sorry, I like the stupid part of this game. It's very dumb and I love it. Ooh, what's here? It's locked. Hey, buddy.
That's Danny.
Hi, Danny.
A quiet young man, but quite friendly as you can see.
I mean, it was a little
He
rude of
was
him. He almost
so
dropped on me.
eager to meet you. His hometown is New Orleans, but he came here after first losing his way. Oh,
Sorry, she looks so
maybe you
annoyed.
might know.
Yeah, she would be.
Where is the path to heaven?
Danny. Hanky Man is blocking the way. Wait. Something about him being rotten. It's an actual corpse? Get me out of this creaky room.
I did say that on like the
Mansion
third
is
time
quite
you click
old,
through it.
so
I don't
please
know.
Yeah.
watch your step. Sometimes the floor suddenly gives way, and beneath the floor, there's nothing.
Okay, buddy. Not my first time dealing with...
I'm so sorry. This place is just falling apart. wasn't supposed to stop there, I assure you.
Give me that
There's
sassy
the
pose.
exit. I hope you enjoyed your tour. Please come back
Not gonna do
anytime.
it. There she goes.
Or if you prefer, we could come and visit you instead.
No, we're good. Thanks though.
I like the boring haunted mansion.
That was supposed to be the exit, but it seems that no one wants you to leave.
Oh, it's the red light.
Everyone
Yeah.
really likes you. They want you to stay with them forever. I have to agree with them. Don't be
I thought this was
afraid.
the red light part.
It is. It's a fun little callback to Silent Hill 2 and getting chased by Pyramid Head.
Except it's just more abstract and weird.
Yeah.
It's not just a guy.
Not
Chingy
just
was
a
already
guy.
like sick of people talking about Pyramid Head.
Probably.
Oh!
Oh!
Monster design. It will kill you very quickly if you don't turn fast enough
Yeah.
for the red light. Genuine complaint about the red light.
It's a little bit of a problem. We saved
And
just
it
before the
is
start of
not
the manor.
easy with the camera angles to
No.
work out what way you're meant to go.
Heather does have the tendency to turn a little slowly as well. Oh god, we have to listen to it again. Okay, just before the red light, I will probably drop a quick save just in
Welcome
case.
to the Borley
Yeah, that's
I don't want to
Haunted
listen to
Mansion.
man.
It's when we go through the door that's supposed to be the exit.
Mhm.
Help!
Just
let me
saying
just
it out
cut-
loud so I'll remember.
No, that's fair. It is nice that it lets me just cut through because we have technically done it once already. We're gonna get jump scared.
That's Danny. A
Hey,
quiet
Danny.
young man, but
I was hoping I
quite
could see what
friendly,
the
as you can see.
text is, but I don't want to have to listen.
This mansion is quite old, so please, I'm so sorry. This place is just falling apart. The mechanism is broken, you see. It wasn't
These
supposed to
fuckers
stop
ever just
there,
blast
I
out through
assure
the
you. There's the exit. I hope you enjoyed
This is
your
the
tour.
adult tour.
Please come back anytime. Or if you prefer, we could come and visit you instead.
Well, sorry that my cursor was on screen the whole time. I just needed to get that save state going for light.
That was supposed to be the exit, but it seems that no one wants you to leave. Everyone really likes you. They want you to stay
Oh, God.
with them forever. I have to agree with them.
Come on, Heather.
Fuck. Fuck. Okay,
Jeez.
it's fine.
It's fine. Didn't even happen. That was a simulation.
That
Y'all
was
just imagined
supposed to be
that?
the exit, but it
Wow, I
seems
can't believe
that
you
no
would
one
imagine
wants
Heather
you to
being
leave.
dead. Horrible.
Everyone
Horrible. What does that
really
say about
likes
you?
They want you to stay with them forever. I have to agree with them.
Sir, I need you to stop monologuing for a minute. Fuck. It's fine.
Hey.
We've only gone and done it. No. No.
We approve of the
Heather?
red light in that it's kind of cool. That like you can't even see what's chasing you. You just know it's incredibly deadly.
Fucking hell, Heather. I died.
You died. You got gripped.
Got gripped. At least I didn't grip my lip.
That would have been worse.
Would have been horrible. Heather's poor face. We'll just load this up.
Supposed to be the exit.
And
But it
we'll.
seems that no
Yeah, I
one
just got
wants
hit.
to
Great.
leave.
Cool.
Yeah, I was gonna say might have taken some
Everyone
damage from
really
red light
likes
when you were doing the running, but
They want you to stay with them forever.
remember to heal when we get out of red light zone.
Agree with them.
Yup. It's bad in here.
Plus, it's not that bad. You just got kind of stuck on the edge.
Yeah. Okay.
Hey,
First try.
just that easy. It does do a lot of damage, even if you just get. Oh,
just get slightly touched. We'll also just save here because, listen, I've shown that I can do it.
you want to get gripped?
I don't want to get gripped. Whee! Dog. What is up here? No time to start playing around? Well, Heather, what do you suggest we do then?
Could it be rusted? No,
Nah.
absolutely
Here? No.
0% chance.
Oh god. Is that not a thing I can pick up? That looked like a thing I could pick up. Apparently
It looked
not.
like jerk. No, it's fine. We can leave that.
I have to collect it all. I have to make sure no one jerkies up.
I'm gonna jerk you up.
I can't believe you would do this. It's Popcorn Wagon. Don't eat the popcorn here. It's even worse than normal rocks and cardboard. It's a flyer for a musical. Okay. I do remember what I'm supposed to do, but I just want to peek around, see if there's any other items. Does not look like there are. So that's sad.
Yeah.
Oh,
Hey.
shotgun shells, health drink. Give Heather a minute. I can also dink my oiter. Oh god. These are all bad places to be. Room I needed to be in was a room over, and I just forgot. I know there's gotta be a way. Basically saying that there's gotta be a way to pull it open. Half is fine, better do something with the other half though. Which one do you want me?
Do you do it from the inventory?
I mean, probably. I just thought that maybe she would, like, want a specific one, and that maybe she would tell me which one specifically she wanted. Is it this?
I'm sure it counted as you looking at it from there. Okay, I don't know what's going on.
You want me to do it here?
Middle? Oh, okay.
I just needed to know the prompt. That's all. Just wanted to know which
refuses
one.
to interact with the funny rocket ships. That's kid
Yeah, for
stuff.
real.
You don't touch that.
I can't believe she's like this.
Silly.
Turn that switch on. Just feel like it would get stuck on one of the cars if we attached it to the column. But what do I know? We've done it.
It must
We
have
broke
to
it.
put on the rocket. Plus, they're
Right?
closer.
Right?
You have to go past it to see the column that you're supposed to look
Douglas,
at.
You're late.
are you hurt?
I can't move my right leg. I think it's broken.
I'll call an
Oh, is that
ambulance.
all?
What? I don't think one will come. Don't worry. I'm used to it.
You old fool! Getting yourself hurt like that?
Sorry.
Why did you have to do that for me? What'll I do if you die?
What'll we do if this god thing gets born?
Come on. How powerful could a god from a dump like this be?
Got him! Sorry.
I'm sure it'll be no big deal.
Yeah, but anyway, something's gonna happen.
Who knows? Maybe we'd all be better off if it did.
But if this is how a god of mercy acts, I don't want to see any more of him. That's a pretty good reason to risk my life, don't you think? Plus, I'm just an old fool, right?
Yes. But we
You
love
think
you.
you're Superman or something?
You know, I always wanted to be him. Besides,
Yeah.
I want to help you out.
You don't have to feel responsible. I know it's not your fault.
You remind me of my son.
You said nobody was going to cry for you.
Dead people don't cry. Stupid kid got himself shot robbing a bank.
But why?
Maybe because his pop was a penniless good-for-nothing. Who knows? Anyway, now I guess I'll never find out. Sorry. I shouldn't have said you reminded me of a guy like you.
Well, maybe if you had compared me to your daughter. Listen, I'll take care of the rest. You stay here and I'll be back when it's over.
You'll be okay by yourself.
Hey, no problem. Besides, my dad's not around anymore, so only I can do this. What are you doing?
Maybe killing you here is the only way to end this nightmare.
Yeah, you might be right.
Shoot! You'll only kill a girl!
What is it?
I just came by to make sure you were still alive.
Sorry. I'd come with you if I wasn't hurt.
Yeah. that's the problem with older guys, huh? I'll handle things. You just rest. Don't die on me, okay?
IG Kato, thank you for the follow. Welcome in. Oh boy. Oh right, I still don't have the map.
Oh yeah. I might have missed it.
I think I might have missed the map. That's fine. You were about to ask something.
No, I got like a weird thing
Oh?
that I'm thinking about. Like, oh. It just reminded me when she said, like, oh, how tough could a god from this dump be anywhere? It's like a lot of the, like, Silent Hill monsters, they're like scary things to look at, and it like pulls them from people's subconscious and stuff. But they are like particularly dangerous. Like, they're deformed and mutated in ways that makes it very hard for them to like move around, or like like they're aggressive, but they're not. They'd have a hard time killing someone.
Some of them are a little more formidable than others. But
and then when you get into like this one mostly, but kind of with other designs, there are ones that are like more just pure monsters. And those are weird nonsense creatures too. I like the ones in the flooring too, and then they're kind of the closes in this are very similar. And it is like the town is like trying to build something but doesn't really know how to do it. I think like the god that's going through is like trying to build stuff but doesn't really know how it works.
Still kind of like basing itself off of whatever it had pulled from Alessa.
Yeah, still largely based on the things Alessa was afraid of and tormented by.
Yeah,
because that's like its main connection to the world.
But it's gone a little more abstract with some of them, because it's like, well, we have to do something. Nah, it's I like it. It's good and cool.
Yeah.
Cinderella doll. We need a slipper and an apple. And there's photos on the ground. Yeah, it's the shadow of the things that we need. I have a doll head, which doesn't feel like what we need. Can I just put the doll head here? It casts a shadow, vaguely apple-like.
Oh yeah, it's apple shaped.
It's apple shaped. And then I haven't picked anything else up that would be like slipper-like. Heather, take off your shoe. The only other thing I picked up was Douglas's journal.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna do it.
No. It's a simple doll. I genuinely do not remember what I need for that. Maybe there was something more in the fortune house. Could
bring it up in case. I won't say it if it's not really weird.
I think I just need to look around a little more.
Yeah, it's just tricky without the map.
Yeah. That's in game. Sorry, every time. Looks like it's a meaning, but I really don't know what it is. Okay. Heather. I don't really want to go back to where Douglas is. That doesn't feel right. There's nothing over here. So I guess we will come back out here. Hey, Douglas, have you seen anything that would cast a shadow like a shoe? Rabbit's all smashed up. What happened to the person inside? I wonder.
Don't walk too fast or you may fall off, says the guide. We got that guide.
Oh, we know. Oh boy, do we know. There's a dead body inside this box thing.
They do get around.
Yeah.
Love them about.
Douglas, can I have your shoe?
Just rub his kicks while he's out.
Well, he's not using it.
Just
No?
came by to me.
His leg's broken, I guess you don't need that shoe.
So I have a puzzle, Douglas. And your shoe is the only way I can resolve it. What's this mean? What's this mean?
Can we fashion it into the shape of a shoe?
Oh boy. I don't feel like it would be this far back. But I could be wrong. I don't know shit. Is the thing.
We have just ran past an item that we needed.
Back in the other room?
No, sorry, that's the situation. It's not like a weird puzzle. It's we didn't pick a thing up that we needed to pick up. I was just confirming that.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. I guess do I need to backtrack more?
I can't remember.
Okay, that's fair. We'll just
I know what room it was in, I just can't remember how far back the room was. Well, it can't be that far back because we went across the roller coaster, right?
Yeah.
So we can't run like too far back.
No. But that is fine, as long as I know that I just need to wander around a bit, please. That please was at me not falling off a ledge. That door's shut tight. Okay, so we can't go back that way.
Right, this is where we came in from the bad house.
Yep.
I have trouble remembering where all the things were, sorry.
No, that's totally okay. Knowing that I can't go back that far,
Yeah.
is helpful. So we have an area that we can search, and we'll just search a little bit. That's fine. We've breezed through most things today, so if we get stuck on this one bit, I'm not mad about it. We can work with that. Just wander around for a while.
Oh yeah, there were two. This is the horrible part with all the knife men.
Yep.
I remember.
Oops, it's Knifeman out. Sorry, trying to get the camera to cooperate. There it is. Okay.
Yeah.
I knew that there was something else in here and could not remember what it was. A little annoyed that I missed that the first time, but you know what? That's okay.
It looks very obvious when you get it, but also the camera does not like facing exactly that way.
Right? Well, and it's like specifically when we were leaving and like I passed these stairs, I was like, oh, I should probably like go up there. And then I was like, nah, I already checked up there. I did not check up there.
Big old
Is the
tube.
thing. But it's fine, we found it. It didn't take us that long. Oh god.
Oh.
It's
That's not-
fine.
Them flying means the cat, like, bucks you in properly,
Yeah.
which is handy.
We appreciate.
Other than that, they're one of the worst enemies, but...
They're so annoying on like all levels. Their sound is really obnoxious. If you hit them the once, they zoom and knock you
Yeah,
over.
there's no fighting them. You run past those.
Yeah.
And even then, it's really had to... They always nick you as you run by, because they swing around fast. While pointing one of the knives out in front of them.
They're kind of the worst.
I think the noise is it gets you real tense. the bad things to have around. They make bad noises.
It's just at the right like high frequency that I'm like, I need this to stop or I'm going to scream because my ears hurt. Please, no more.
Good thing they're only in a few rooms.
Don't happen super often, but when they do,
Bad guys.
not great.
They're weird things. I don't like. You can tell it's not an original from the boy, but I do kind of like the design.
Yeah, no, they're neat. They're cool. They're horrifying. I hate them.
Yeah, it's nice to
They've done a
have
great
more
job.
monsters that are like man-shaped.
Yeah!
Yeah.
It's not scary at all, is this dragon.
I
You
think
can
it's
see its head.
I'm scared of T-Rex.
Scared of this void behind him. What's lurking there?
That's the T-Rex's cave where he hoards his gold.
T-Rex, why you hoard gold? You don't need that!
Stole it off a cave, man.
Can't believe you would do that. Oh god. Aww. Aww. It's one of the last save points for Harry. Dolly is the one who said it. Said that girl was a demon. That she took my daughter for a sacrifice. But it's not totally believable. I mean, appearances can be deceiving. When I saw that photo in the hospital basement, I thought, that girl looks like Cheryl. Is that why I feel this way? Something's not normal anyway. Nothing good will come of this. But I just can't think of her as a demon. Is it my imagination, or do I actually feel sorry for her? Why do I feel like she's looking for someone to help? Cheryl's what's important to me. Everything else can wait until I've gotten her back. There's a date and a signature at the end. It's dated some 17 years earlier and signed by Harry. Dad? It's because he was writing down everything.
I like it.
Nope, but those are things. Are those not things I can have? Those look like things I could have. Oh god.
Those are bullets. I do need them.
Stun gun battery.
Oh.
Never found the stun gun.
I didn't know who were stun gun.
I don't know that I ever actually find it, honestly.
Huh.
There's so many batteries.
Just have 12 batteries lying around.
First aid kit. I like the little notepad thing. Because, like, in the first one, Harry talks about using it and, like, writing down what's happened. It's just a little thing, but I appreciate it. Hello, meat. Looking for items at the moment is why I'm appearing to be incredibly lost. just so y'all don't look at me and go, what the fuck are they doing? Why are they? Do we need to call the bondulance? What's going on? Oh, it's okay.
It's okay.
Hi, horse. Here's a memo pinned to the horse's side with a huge nail. When 13 turns count 4, you will die from their curse. If you wish to escape, there is but one way out. To kill before you are killed. You will be saved by the 12th death.
It's awesome.
Heather.
Oh, just 2 big ones.
I know this horse is alive! Oh my god.
Oh, she's alive.
Hey, did you know this horse is alive?
Two big ones and he's still alive.
Might be because it was high up.
Okay.
They might have more health once there are fewer horses. No, I think it just wasn't, or it was that just it hadn't passed through all the way. Okay. Did I miss one? Are we good?
There you go.
Now they're funny blanket horses.
Go right on you. You have a bigger knife. Shadow again.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I can take another hit. Where did she go? Ma'am, I don't think you can block that!
With a knife. Get out of here. Been hit a few times.
Yep. Those don't do a lot.
You were like 1 hit from death, I think.
Yep. Still don't
One
do
more
a
hit
lot.
and then, like, maybe another first hit. Yeah. It's kind of like doing alright. The mall's too slow. It's not happening.
Yeah. Also, also can't hit her very often is the other
Yeah,
problem.
she blocks most of the attacks, but you know, blocking, she's not hurting you.
Man. Where'd you go? No.
Put the sword of like you blocking the bullet, and then you did not. You can't block a sword with a gun.
She's doing it.
She's really intent on pistol whipping you. She has no other thoughts in her head.
Fuck off. No, come back here. You can't just block my sword.
His hands are steel, it would she gun in half. What's going on? She has a shotgun next to her in trouble though.
Yeah. No, she's got a pipe.
Pipe, we can deal with pipe. Definitely not staggering as often as you like.
Nope, and it's horrible and I hate it. Fuck! Heather. Bam! Heather, you have to start running.
Oh jeez.
Yeah. It's not great.
Down to the ampules. She can block shotgun shells. She can also face tank shotgun shells.
All done.
Okay. What?
No! I don't think that should be okay to do.
No.
I had been pressing the menu button constantly. This is horrible.
This is a very ass boss fight.
Ma'am, I don't think you should be allowed to block my bullets.
No, you can't block her bullets. Doesn't seem entirely fair.
Okay. Oof. What is this? It would be better for myself to die. After all, it's nothing to be afraid of. That child, that demon, when I think of the endless pain it will bring when it is birth, I decided that instead of the suffering and cruelty I endured in that sick room, I would like to bestow a more gentle and peaceful death on myself. Why do I resist? I never thought of myself as such a fool. Alessa, guess it's kind of strange for me to call you that, since you are me. But you know what? You and I don't think alike after all. It's not that I don't remember that sick room either. Let's get off this bad carousel and into this horrible goop
Not
room.
great here either. Gunky here.
At least no one is, blocking my bullets in here.
That's true.
Stained by the evils of this world, we hold our sorrows within us. Only you can heal us these wounds. Each morning, afternoon, evening, and night, we call out your name and pray for the day of the miraculous descent. I give to you unreservedly my body and my eternal soul. Whatever darkness may befall me, I will endure with you beside me. As proof of your miraculous power, guide our obedient and willing souls to the road of paradise, O Lord. We will not give in to the power of temptation as long as we have you in our hearts. O Lord, save us with your compassion. O Lord, shower us with your blessings. O Lord, favor us with your abundance. Or don't. That's cool too.
Just make a bunch of rusty metal and horrible meat monsters.
Right. There's something written on the door. This door is the gate which leads to the road to paradise. Embrace the bosom of the Holy Mother. Admit your sins and be forgiven. Eternal tranquility can be yours. Oh wait, no. Oh, I didn't have to do anything. Just made it sound like it was a puzzle. Hey Claudio, why do you have a church at the end of an amusement park?
How did you get here?
Carousel.
It was
Run the
Vincent,
carousel over.
wasn't it? He led you here. When
No,
we
it was
cease
Hans.
meddling. But it's just as well. Luring you here also serves my purposes.
Checkmate.
Not yet. The time is not yet at hand. The time when all will be forgiven their sins. When the paradise we have long dreamed for will arrive. After the judgment and atonement, an eternity of bliss. Oh, Alessa, the world you wanted is nearly here.
That's not what I want.
Not you. Alessa, your true self.
But I am Alessa. My little Claudia, my dear sweet sister.
Alessa, is it you? Oh, how I've missed you.
I don't need another world. It's fine the way it is.
But you said it yourself. The world must first be cleansed with fire.
But That's not what I want now.
Alyssa, don't you want happiness? Have you become blind to all the hopeless suffering in the world? We all need God's salvation.
Listen, suffering is a fact of life. Either you learn how to deal with that or you go under. You can stay in your own little dream world, but you can't keep hurting other people. Besides, I'll never forgive you for hurting my father.
I wish only for the salvation of mankind. But for that to happen, the world must first be remade. And for that, we need God.
You self-righteous witch! No one asked you to help!
God is growing within you.
She's got that tummy ache.
You despise me, don't you?
You're damned right I do!
That's good.
Safe spot. Eye of Night Tarot card.
I'm gonna run to the loo real quick while a save spot.
Sounds good. I'm just gonna look for items in here and hope that for some reason they have bullets in this church. Because that would be very nice for me. Let's do a little savey save. And then go see if we can open up these doors. This is where I need to be. There's no reason to go back to the amusement park. I'll give you a second, Heather. Sorry, I've made you run everywhere. This also just... Lock is broken. Alright. And obviously the big doors are where we came from, so we ignore those. And we go in here. Because the game says, no items for you. What's over here? A long hall. What's over here? A not long hallway.
I'm back.
Welcome back. We
That
have
map right there.
a church map. Thank goodness. Why did you turn her light off? Alessa, don't do that. I mean, Heather, don't do that.
Can I have a map for this area?
The quote scriptures, they don't look worth reading. Hey.
If you're a lesson now, you've probably already read them.
Dear God, please forgive me. I know I'll be put to death for the sins I've committed. And I'll go to my death gladly and with a peaceful heart. But please, grant me just a small piece of your everlasting mercy. Let me see my child once within your golden gates. Deliver me not to hell, but to purgatory. Allow me to atone for my sins there. I'll stand within the very flames of redemption, no matter how they burn me. Forgive me for my wicked act of revenge. And deliver the soul of my poor murdered daughter. Please, also care for the soul of the girl whose life I have taken. God, I am a child, trembling with fear as I stare at death. my tortured soul with your infinite mercy. Please, forgive me.
I forgive you.
Thank you, Lord.
Just very long.
There were a lot of long pauses.
Yeah.
They were a good time when we run up and get water, so.
Water is important.
Yeah.
Just a little crinkly over there. Excuse me. Nope, stuck on the board frame. Aren't anything. Great, wonderful. Oh god, Heather. Oh, it's crinkly here now. This is a person.
It's not an alive person, so I wouldn't worry about it.
Oh god.
jeez.
It's fine.
Yeah, it took too long to stand up. You still call the hospital stuff. Because Alyssa might have been in a hospital for a minute.
Maybe. Hard to tell that may have happened.
She might have seen the inside of a hospital once.
Saint Alessa, Mother of God, Daughter of God. This picture, that's me. I'm holding the baby, and I'm the baby being held. The me that wanted death and disappeared with God 17 years ago, and the me here and now that sought life. Oh boy. Saint Jennifer, unwavering faith under death's blade. Saint Nicholas, miraculous hands, a doctor of God. It's a safe spot.
Nice.
I'm gonna just save here. Where else do we need to check?
2 past the lump man.
Yeah.
That's cool.
How did she get behind that painting? Get the feeling there's something behind this picture, though. That girl's cries and footsteps disappear behind it, after all.
This is a cool video code.
We're a fan. It's very good. Oh, right. Okay. kind of forget about this section. Whoa! Hey! Hey!
Oh god, not that guy.
Hey!
Not friends.
Not friends at all! Oh my goodness. Silent Hill's Ancient Gods, a study of their etymology and evolution. What a mouthful! There is no religion that has remained unchanged from the moment it was founded. This one is no exception. When this religion fell into the hands of immigrants, it was deeply influenced by their own original Christian beliefs. For example, the traditional representatives of these primal gods may be given the names and descriptions of Christian angels. Excuse me. Thus, shared characteristics begin to appear. There's also one rare example of the chief deity, creator of paradise, or lord of serpents and reeds, being dubbed with a demon's name. Of course, this was not done by believers, but by their opponents. Check both sides of the shelves. Here's another card.
Everyone was saying they were worshipping demons, and Dahlia was just like, nah, it's rad as hell, actually. We'll go with that.
Dude, that's metal as fuck. Let's go.
Hiya, Heather.
You show up
Hiya,
everywhere, don't
Vickman.
You make me sound like some kind of unwanted pest.
You're a murderer, Vignan.
I'm
Well, who are you anyway?
Am I?
Did you realize
Vickman?
that yet?
Yeah, you're on Claudia's side.
I told you not to put me in the same category as that mad woman.
Well, you're pretty loony yourself.
Got him.
It's true.
It's kind of a loony
We
guy.
believe in the same God. But I'm quite sane.
So why did you help me out then? Was that also part of trying to resurrect God?
It's not uncommon for people to worship the same God and still disagree.
God? Are you sure you don't mean devil?
Whichever you like. The point is that now I really am on your side. I don't want God to be born. Wouldn't be convenient.
He's back. The boy's back.
Much too
boy.
unpredictable.
So you've been using me to stop Claudia, is that it? Do your own dirty work.
My dirty work? I think we both had our own interests in mind. You hate her too, don't you? You're the only one who can get
It's a
done.
powerful look.
I don't have powers like you two.
You know,
Besides,
nerd man.
I always hated getting all hot, sweaty.
Oh, really?
I'm just looking out for myself. Everyone does it. Don't stand there looking so smug. You're the worst person in this room. You come here and enjoy spilling their blood and listening to them cry out. You feel excited when you step on them and snuff out their lives.
Are you talking about the monsters?
Monsters? They look like monsters to you? Don't worry. It's just a joke. By the way, I forgot to ask you. Did you get the seal of Metatron?
What's that?
You don't have it?
You don't
Leonard is
know?
carrying it.
You mean this thing?
just
That's
a
it.
prank
As
hand.
long as we have that.
Emmy, you should come over and play Until Dawn with me sometime soon. Please. Perfect. Good. Great. We'll figure out a time. Rudy's seen Until Dawn. Everyone's seen Until Dawn.
I've watched Sam play it. We're ages ago, though. You want to show me Until Dawn?
I can show you Until Dawn. I like Until Dawn. Kind of a fan. There's a book of tarot here.
Oh.
Tarot is based on the 22 Hebrew consonants and is said to represent the entire world. Each card, numbered 0 through 21, has a particular meaning.
Well, I mean,
Oh my god, I have hiccups. Sorry.
We're only looking at the major arcana, then we're not looking at the whole tarot deck. Okay. It's fine. It's a
By
big
reading
book.
these
They were
cards,
only
it's
looking at the major
just-
arcana.
Right? But also, we don't need to go through every card. We don't need to go through all of them, right?
Fair.
There are a lot. There's a number of cards. By reading these cards, fortune tellers predict the future. For example, the first card, the Magician, signifies creation, wisdom, beginnings, or destruction and fraud. Second card, the High Priestess, denotes intuition, harmony, faith, or dogmatism and arrogance. According to some texts, the Gardner deck had more than 22 cards. Gardner deck does not exist today. It is mentioned only in the literature. In the literature? Which literature? The literature. It is said that these
The literature.
The literature, right? It is said that these extra cards were based on lost Hebrew vowels and denoted an otherworldly, transcendental existence, i.e., God. Cool, great. Wonderful. Vicnet did give us a
Forbidden
book.
cats.
Oh god.
As we know,
Weird.
of course, that the magician denotes being able to shoot homing tears for a whole room.
Obviously.
And I can't remember the high priestess or the
High Priestess, yeah.
yeah.
Ugh. This magic square with strong protective and dispelling properties is called the Viren Seven Crest. Sorry, the text got like blurred into the background. Or the Seal of Metatron. Metaton? Wait, hold on. I have to read that again because I think that's it should be Metatron. It's
Metatron.
Metraton.
Oh yeah.
It's the Seal of Metraton, as opposed to Metaton.
Metraton.
Metatron. Okay, this is fine. Megatron. It will bring results regardless of whether the target is good or evil. Its strength, therefore, places a very high burden on the caster. As it is also difficult to control, it is not usually used. Oh, it's all...
Yeah, Metraton.
This is why it bears the name Metraton after the angel Metatron, or Metraton, also known as the agent of God. Okay.
We're on purpose. We're an on purpose Megatron, I understand.
Alright. I take... Oh, what happened to my status? Why is it like that? What happened? Hold on. Okay, it's fixed.
We're fine.
I just need to get out of here. There are no other accessible rooms here. You motherfucker. Rude.
Awful guy.
Horrible guy. Unbelievably terrible guy. Okay, well, we found that room. Everything is explored over here. Now, we need to get past Nutsman. fuck? It's fine.
Is the enemy right aside?
Probably. I got handgun bullets. That's great, because I definitely could not see those. Do you want to pick that up, Heather? I got a cassette tape. There are a bunch of papers in this file. Get the feeling that it's a handwritten copy of some book. Represents the deity known as the Halo of the Sun. In heraldry, symbolizes a religious group. The 2 outer circles are charity and resurrection. The 3 inner circles are present, past, and future. Usually drawn in red, occasionally drawn in black or other colors, but blue reverses the meaning into a curse on God and is therefore forbidden. Is that it? That's it. Lock is broken. Please get up, Heather. Oh, God. Oops. That's not what I meant to do. There's a locked door there. I don't know that we have a key. Might be worth checking out. I don't think we've seen a cassette player yet, though, right?
I don't remember seeing one.
Okay. The tarot cards. And that's it. We are gonna run back to the belfry. She was just looking at the door.
Do need stuff. It's getting dangerous.
Yeah. It's a bit of a problem.
Is it? Is there a thing over there?
Wait.
No, it's a weird chair. It's fine.
Okay.
Wasn't even that weird a chair. I was just confused.
Circle means reincarnation. That's what it said on that paper back there. So death isn't the end. Pretty good deal, if you ask me. Thanks to reincarnation, I died as Alessa, but I'm still living as myself. But you know, just the thought of it is starting to turn my stomach. Okay. Heather. Where should we go? It's like... Oh, I guess I could probably check out that square, actually. As I think about it. I think that might be a thing I can interact with. I think there are multiple levels in this. Horrible hell.
Oh no.
Yep.
Right. Awful.
Yeah. It's less than ideal.
I'm glad she keeps filling the map in.
Right? Okay, don't even just talk about that door
Yeah,
being
it's
there.
clearly bad, but like, do you want to?
Do you want to tell me that you've like marked it? I like having the confirmation of this is a broken thing.
Like, it looks different from the other dolls, so like, is that important? What key would I need for this? No, it's nothing.
Well, she's so picky about pixels from time to time. Fuck off, dude. But it's like, did I actually interact with it, or is this one that we just aren't gonna comment on? Ugh. Lock is broken.
Oh, here. I know this person's room.
Seems kind of familiar. Oh, look! It's Cheryl's drawing of Harry! This is my sketchbook from 17 years ago. On the front cover here is a picture of Dad. Really awful work.
Really captured his long eyeballs. Very distinctive, protruding eyeballs.
The one feature that everyone always says, or always mentions when people ask, what do you think of when you think of Harry Mason? Long eyes.
Old long eyes, they call him.
Oh, jeez. The door sure does rattle, but it's stuck tight. Secret is hidden out of sight. You may be thinking, what could it be? You'll need 5 magic cards if you want to see. What to do then with all these? I'll tell you straight and I won't tease, just as long as you say please. Piece of paper. There is my notebook. Now the first thing you must know is that there's something in each row. That is not the half of it. 3 would be too hard to fit. 1 in each row. Cannot be 3 in a single row. Sorry, I'm writing this out. The upside down man under the ground, so the hanged man on the bottom row?
I guess.
Hanged man bottom question mark? I will put under the ground. Two is right, 2 is left. There's no one around, so he's center. Center bottom?
Doesn't have
Leave
any
him-
neighbors.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Leave him alone, though his tears are profound. The moon is up above the sky, polar crescent floating high, twinkling lights, it's like a crown on the head of a crazy clown.
The Adam the
moon.
Clown Tarot goes under the moon.
Horrible. So we've got the moon on top, above, jester of sorts.
Oh yeah, that'll be. I got it.
Your Excellency, praying to God Most High, do you think you can tell me why you always look up at the night sky? Emperor, probably the same row as the Fool.
That's the crazy clown.
Mm-hmm. But looks at sky? Because I imagine we'll want to point him looking towards the moon.
Yeah.
Do you have it now? You didn't forget one major point you must not omit. And now at the last, before you take a whack, here's one more hint to help keep you on track. Scary and hateful, that thing in the night. Better be careful. It's not on your right. Turn to the left, and you'll keep it in sight. So whatever the 5th card is to the left.
Yeah. Okay.
Thing in the night, possibly on the same row? No, because that would be 3 for the moon, so it'll be somewhere. It's fine.
Yeah. There could be something on the same row
Wait.
as the hanged man if he's in one of the corners.
No, because the hanged man doesn't have neighbors.
Yeah, that's what I meant. If he's on one side, then there wouldn't be anyone on. If he was on like the far side,
I
and there wasn't
assumed he
anyone
was in the
directly next
middle,
to him.
just
It could
given what
be.
it said. It can be on the same row as the moon, because the Fool is under the moon.
Right. Okay. That too.
I didn't read my notes all the way through. It's fine. It's because I put the Fool next to the moon, but that's because the direction is I have moon on top above Fool, but they were on the same line, so it's fine. It's fine. I understand what I've written. I just have to read what I've written. That's all. A memo book. Something's written inside. She's just beyond this door. I don't know how, but I can sense it. But she's not the only one there. I sense the presence of something extremely dangerous, even sickening. or maybe what they call God. Nevertheless, I will open that door. Enough of this idle chit-chat. God, I'm not, but I fully intend to save her. No, them. Last entry was written some 17 years ago. And here's Dad's signature. What's this memo book doing here? Well, you see, Heather. Here's the thing. Okay. Brass key. Great. Are there any cool cards here? No. Just stupid reminiscing about dumb Claudia. No, it wasn't me. Alessa wrote this a long time ago. A chapel altar. It wasn't that one beautiful chapel. It was some other altar somewhere else. It's the hidden one under the antique shop.
There was a door here, it's gone now. That place.
Yeah. So there's gonna be a door on the right-hand side.
Oh, that camera angle.
Yeah, it was rough. And it wouldn't let me, like, fix it. No. Oh.
It's not too bad. Honestly, the closers are like the easiest guys to avoid getting hit by.
Oh, definitely. Still get worried when I come across them, though.
They're intimidating, but they're not up to much, I reckon.
Where you going, footprints? Just push it open. Don't fall off the ledge. Alright. What is in here? Oh boy!
Yeah, I remember this room too.
Doesn't this bring back memories? There's something stuck in the book. It's the Fool card. This book. I feel like I have to read it, but at the same time I don't want to. Aglophidus. Red liquid or crystals resembling blood, according to the Kabbalah. The name is taken from an herb with the power to dispel evil spirits. It is said to grow in Arabian deserts. Maybe vaporized or applied as a poultice to guard against demons. It is powerful, but as it is rare, it is extremely difficult to obtain. That's what we use to save Sybil. That's what Kaufman threw on Alessa to make God come out. It's a picture of me when I was 7. I look bored as hell. Sorry. Oh, give me these.
Oh god, we need those.
Yeah, we do. What did she say? I just don't want to remember. Get me out of here. That's valid, honestly. Picture
Definitely
here, but it's not my style. Sorry.
To ship in the Aglophoters, but we know that we're dealing with all kinds of just occult weirdness.
Yeah.
Still getting anything that could get the dang hands off.
Fuck! Oh shit. Well, this is a problem. There's a guy over there! Wiggling some legs! It's fine. We're not there anymore. Yeah, it's a little terrifying when they start, just coming at you. They can hustle. Listen, when they want to move, they will move. Okay, there's one more door at the end of the big hallway, and then there's one past the elevator. Oof. Is this the right way? Yes, it is. Okay.
wondered why it was like stream for so long, but I guess we were just loading in all of the horrible things.
Yeah. Had to get all the bad things in there. Lock is broken, because of course it is.
Hey, one on one, Parker.
Hooray, more things to explore.
Need more tarot cards.
You need more tarot cards, it's true. Need more items. Doors open inside, there's someone wrapped in a bag. Maybe. No, they're definitely dead. Okay, but that's... That zipper is very prominent. Nothing important here. I haven't looked too closely, though. I don't think I want to. Heather, you have
Guess
to look
we
closely.
can't make you.
I saw those shotgun shells. Also, we got the Hanged Man. I think we only need...
I think we got 4.
Yeah, I think we need one more. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. Yeah.
The Hangman, of course, the tarot card for being able to fly for one room.
Ooh.
In Bellatra, it's the tarot card for removing 2 of the playing cards from your deck
Oh.
permanently. I do like Bellatra demo's been very good. It's a game about cheating at cards.
Oh, this writing. Is this Dad's diary? Why would it be here? Sometimes I have the sense even now that that girl is a reincarnation of Alessa. Don't worry about it much now. That's all forgiven. You were unloved, Cheryl. Or was that Alessa? Now Cheryl is Alessa again. No matter whose reincarnation she may have been. Excuse me? That girl is my most beloved treasure. But that name was a mistake. At the time, I thought of her only as a replacement for my lost Cheryl. When she knows the truth, will she feel bad? That's what worries me. Thanks, Dad. So I was Alessa after all. But I do have just a trace of one more memory left. I haven't forgotten my sweet and gentle mother. Get that.
I was like, you don't mean Dahlia, right? She doesn't mean
No.
Dahlia.
Absolutely does not mean Dahlia. 100% does not.
Harry's wife. From specifically the Cheryl life.
Oh God! Jesus! Fuck! Sorry.
Really crept up on you.
Oh my God!
Oh
I-
Jesus! it's two
I
of them
don't
now.
know. I don't know why, but I thought the radio would be louder when they got like that close, and so like I knew that there was an enemy in the halls. I just didn't think he would be right there. Oh boy. Okay, yeah,
We
the only
got a
place to
key?
go. Yeah, we got the brass key
That'll do.
from that morgue. Did I get the shotgun shells that were there?
I think you did.
Okay. I
We
know
were
I
very excited about the shotgun shells.
Yeah, I knew I got like stoked about it and talked about them.
I hope we didn't just turn around and leave.
You ever get so excited about finding an item you just forget to pick up the item?
That has happened before.
It's a common issue I
Oh.
have. It's fine.
Two of them.
It's fine.
It wasn't fine.
It was fine. Oh God,
This
isn't fine. Definitely not okay. Please open.
Someone's joking around in that too.
Yeah, I did not want to be around there anymore, and I think I hear a slurper.
That's fine. We love Slurper. He's in the walls. He's slurping the walls.
Fuck off! Where did you even come from? Oh my God. Oh,
Horrible.
I know this place.
Yeah. We've seen here before.
Go home. Drop dead. Thief. This used to be Alessa's. I mean, this was my desk once upon a time. Ooh, I thought she was gonna breathe for a minute. The ratty old notebook on the podium. Oops, and there's a letter stuck in here too. Let's see. There's a girl named Alessa in my class. If your memory is any good, you may remember her. She's the one I said they called a witch. Most likely her mother is abusing her. I've never seen her come in without some sort of scrape or bruise. Her expression is pitifully dark for a 6-year-old. Something like this may not be so uncommon. Rather than coming up with pointless ideas, it's best just to watch and wait. But isn't there something I can do to help? I'm considering consulting a lawyer, but I do have my reservations. That's why I thought I'd ask you, my friend, for your opinion first. Hey, Gordon. As a teacher, you are a mandatory reporter. If you suspect that a child is being abused, you have to tell someone. I know this because I got trained in that when I was at the daycare. It's just a thing you gotta do. Cassette player.
Hey.
There's a tape deck here. Perfectly usable.
Do you
Maybe
know
that's
about
different in
what
Japan.
happened here 17 years ago?
Oh,
You've been here a long time.
I also
You
hope
must have
not,
heard some
but...
details.
A group of pagans, blinded by earthly desires,
But I don't know.
spit in the very face of God. They tried to use the seal of Metatron to prevent God's awakening. But God drove the unbelievers away and threw them into the abyss. But due
Where
to
they
their
belong.
wickedness, God was unable to be born properly. And so, she has slumbered ever since, in the womb of the Holy Mother, until the time of the awakening. That's all that I know.
That's it, huh? Well, thanks.
Father Vincent, I heard that the Holy Mother has been found. Is it true?
Alessa has been found? Did Claudia say that?
Yes.
Then it must be true. Her sight rarely fails her.
Bless the Lord.
Maybe it's because of her great faith. But I could never be like her. I wouldn't want to.
Nor I. The truth is, Sister Claudia frightens me a little.
Well now, let's both show our faith by forgetting about this little talk, okay?
Yes, but does that mean this land will finally be the home of eternal paradise?
If God wills it, my sister. If God wills it.
It's gonna be something.
What are these letters? Maybe a bunch of suggestions? People are starting to voice their dissatisfaction about Father Vincent using the organization's money for his own personal benefit. I've also heard rumors that Father Vincent has been extorting donations from some followers. Is he really the right person for such a position? I'm in no place to deny all he's done to make the organization grow. Even though we believe in God, if there were some sort of gathering, shouldn't we be valued not for our limited talents or our talkativeness, but for the depth of our faith? LS.
Vicnanek starts tithes from his followers, so I guess it's okay.
But does he do an inspiration dance for them as well?
Do they do naughty naked dances?
Absolutely. Oh god.
Oh god.
This is a bad room. This is a bad room. And there's nothing in this room.
There's several things in the room.
There's nothing in this room. There's nothing in this room.
I think it was like in the middle.
Yeah, but I got scared. But I got scared.
There's nothing in the room?
There was nothing in the room. Please. The name Claudia Wolf is written very small on the cover. Looks like this is her diary. Juicy. November 10th. She didn't die then. She was born. I knew that for a fact. But then, why haven't I found her yet? They were supposed to need her power to build paradise, for the happiness of the people. She was supposed to be reborn for that. I'd really like to see her. November 14th. Read The Book of Praise. I want to thank Father for lending me such an invaluable book. I found what I'd been searching for in there, how to awaken God, but it's much too cruel. Will I be able to pull it off when I see her? November 16th. I was free all day, so I read A Modern History of Refugees and Young Slaves, Child Exploitation. I don't want to be a mere bystander in this world. Can't do anything now, though, and that's what's hard. There's an old birthday card on the desk, so she was still hanging on to this. Happy birthday to little Claudia. Happy 6th birthday. I love you as if you were my real sister. Here's to you. Yeah, just pick up this card. I did not see what the name of that card was.
The Dad's Notebook card.
It's the High Priestess.
That's
Or
gonna
was it
make
the Eye
no
of Night?
spot attack. I think you already had Eye of Night. I was very confused by Eye of Night when you picked it up.
It's just a candle. Okay, and it was the High Priestess we got. How do I get out of here? That is the question, huh?
We need to get back to down the stairs, right? Down the lift, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got a long jog.
Unfortunately, we'll probably stop in the belfry just to do a save before we get there.
That makes sense.
Nope, 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 you motherfuckers. You have to move. Oh my god.
The door. Sorry.
Can we?
You could the other way?
Oh, I guess. Yes, we could. Horrible. So rude.
It's very rude.
Oh god. We go here. No!
Please.
Oh god.
I'm a little bit worried that we might be dying.
Deal with that in a moment. I knew I could get here safely, so that's the only reason I wanted to wait. No, we're all right. I mean, we're not, but it's as good as it's gonna get right now, I think.
Whole situation is a little desperate.
Yeah.
Not like half, probably.
This game is very rude about giving you enough items, honestly.
Yeah.
So it's just a whole thing. Go in here. And then straight down and then to the left. Okay. It's very important that I map out our path ahead of time. Wow, it's getting real gunky everywhere.
Yeah.
Hate that for us.
Lower floor is also gooped.
Yeah. No, Heather. Horrible.
Hey.
Oh boy.
Easy room.
Made it here. And then all the way to the end. Okay.
Right, we're severing.
And then now that we're here, we'll do another save.
That's fair.
I wanted to do that initial one just on the off chance that like we did accidentally throw ourselves off of the ledge.
No, yeah, that was almost necessary.
Yeah, that was my biggest concern and why I was like I want to save at the belfry just in case. Heather, do you want to like use these? That's the wrong one.
I think you were right about Hanged Man just being on his own in the middle of the bottom, upside down.
Well, that's what it says.
Did you use just one of them? That is what it says.
Yeah.
Which is why I think that.
Here's the Hanged Man, so he'll go here. The moon is going to be at the top above the Fool, but the Emperor has to be at the same row as the Fool.
As the
He
moon.
looks at the sky. No, the last card is the same as
right,
the moon.
it's the Fool. Sorry.
So moon. So put him here. Put you here. We'll put you there.
Oh, that's 3 in a row. Full off to the side?
I need it to be more specific about rows and columns.
I'd assume if any 3 tiles in one line link
No,
up.
for sure.
Bad.
But also, it said a row, and that's
true.
This is a row. This
I
is a
do
column.
only think that because the lines drawn on the background.
Yeah. It's maybe. There we go. You know what?
Yeah.
Just so I don't have to do it again. we'll just do a little savey save again. Wasn't that much time, but
It'd be annoying to do it again.
yeah. I think this is it. I think we're here. Or we're getting there.
What do
We're
I
very
want?
close to there.
Well, for the 2 of you to die, that would be nice. Then I could relax.
When did you stop believing in God? God lives. Just look around you.
But I do believe in her. In my own way. I fear her, and I adore her. But I haven't lost my mind like you. You think that this is the work of God? Isn't this all nothing more than your own personal nightmare? Just like Alessa 17 years ago? If this really is the work of God, then I'd say she has lousy taste.
Got her.
You mock God? Traitor. You will go to hell.
Not that again! Who
Who do you think you are, claiming to know God's will?
Go home, Vincent.
Home. This church is my home. I built it with my power. The power of money that you view with such scorn.
Travis, please.
Although I admit that this atrocious scenery is all yours.
Wasn't Claudia played by Tilda Swinton
Continue to get
in
my way.
the horrible movie?
Well,
Possibly.
They're making a third one,
Why?
and I hate that.
the guest of
Because
honor has arrived.
I think it got like they like
Let's
approved,
get this
Konami
party
approved it like
started.
once
Heather,
Oh, with
all
the
of
new
the
witch.
things were
kill
happening,
this
yeah.
crazy bitch. This demon who claims to speak for God.
No, it's Carrie Ann Moss,
The
excuse
time
me.
has come. You can kill her now.
You go to
It's
hell.
just Trinity from The Matrix. It's fine. Could very easily see it being Tilda Swinton.
Do.
It's a bad movie, though.
Nothing important.
This is the second one, right?
Yeah.
Not going to
Just
run?
markedly worse than the first one. There
And
is
they-
no redeeming feature to the second one.
Right? And
We're
it's
not just mad
wild.
because it's Silent Hill, it's actual garbage.
It's actual garbage, and it's so infuriating because they, like, attempted to follow the game more than they did with the first one, and yet still somehow did it all wrong. And also, it's just poorly acted. It looks bad. It's not a good movie.
Create a perfect paradise.
Happy people can be so cruel. Is it so hard to believe that sympathy could be born out of pain and suffering?
No.
God's mercy.
No. It's so bad. It's bad.
World.
And I think it came out in the era when,
Character.
like,
God can
yeah,
save
and then you've got Kit Harington doing every accent ever. I think it came out around the time that, like, 3D was, like, super big.
Ending.
And so there's, like, a lot of, like... There's a lot of things shot specifically for 3D as well, which just makes it even
It
more
just keeps
obnoxious.
firing shit at the screen.
Yeah!
And that's fine. Alyssa, my dearest.
You told me multiple times that it's Vincent who Kit Harington's supposed to be playing.
Yeah!
But you can't stay in my head because Vincent like
Even if
moves
it was
around
to save
and he's fun to
mankind.
watch and things.
He's so good at the games, and then it's Kit Harington just being this weird leather-wearing dude who's like 10. And you're like, this is incorrect. Take out your 3D goggles now! It's not good. Like, it's so bad that I'm not even willing to, like, show it for a horror fest.
You feel so guilty about it.
Because it would just be
You go to
atrocious and insufferable to sit through again.
Are we gonna watch the third one when it comes out?
Probably.
Vincent?
Just to... Look. I have to watch it at least once. So that I can hate on it and tell you, again, tell you why, exactly, it's
hell.
bad.
Now your stupid dream is over.
I'm a hater, but I will at least suffer through the things that I hate.
Think you can do with that? Do you really think it can?
Because who knows? Maybe I will be
I'm sorry
surprised.
to see you fell for my
Generally,
father's
it's just I'm
foolishness.
surprised that it's worse
What?
than than I thought it would be.
pathetic.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. But what if it is good? It's not going to be.
This is the question we've asked 1,000 times as Silent Hill fans.
Right? I will experience the new ones. I won't necessarily be happy about it, but what if it is a genuinely good surprise? Yeah, the bar is on the floor. The expectations are at 0, and yet they still somehow keep disappointing us.
It's Kinda not, because the good ones are so good that, like, for who we tend to meet.
Yeah, it's fine.
The good
Sometimes
ones
you
are
just
so
become
good
mean.
that when they do something very average, it's
He
still
will disappear.
sad and disappointing. Oh, it's not often they hit the bar of average.
Well,
They've never
that's the
hit the bar of
thing.
average, really.
It's like, even with like the newest one, with the short message, it's not.
I knew.
Even if you
No, it's like the
remove it from
closest to
being a
average is
yeah, but it's like, even if you
Ugh.
remove it from being like a Silent Hill game, it's not even like average good from like the perspective of an indie game, and it's not
it's
an indie developed game. And so you're just
below
kind of
average.
like, yeah.
In a very bland, unexciting way.
Shut your stinking mouth, bitch!
I'm sorry, I've just been. Listen. Claudia. I genuinely don't remember if that was what I was supposed to do or not, but you know. We had to get the pepperoni skin back.
Got that pepperoni back.
God! Bring us salvation!
Yeah, I don't think that
that's
was
a bad ending.
yeah, that's what I thought, but we needed to do. Look, we've been doing it bad in a couple of places.
Sometimes you got 10 in a pepperoni.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fine. We can skip the cutscene. We can just run through. This is why we saved after we did the thing. Love me some summer sausage. Alright, let's...
I think Shared Memories might be the best Silent Hill outside of the good Silent Hills, and that's so sad.
I hate that. Vincent's dead.
I think she said he was a bad man, but this doesn't make me happy.
Yeah, but I was trying to grab the knife out of him. Was mostly what I was attempting to do, but she's trying to look at Claudia and Vincent, I think, which is not particularly helpful. Isn't Shattered Memories a Kingdom Hearts game? Oh no, that's you're thinking of Reach, or well, I guess not just Re, but Chain of Memories and or Re-Chain of Memories.
You're gonna release Silent Hill 358 over 2 days?
I would actually cry.
I don't care about Hull right now.
Can definitely tell she has zero relation to James Sunderland. Perfect. Is that all we had to do?
I think he's turning to me again.
I waited too long?
Can't wait too long. Are you gonna be meat?
I don't want to be meat.
It's gonna happen.
Oh, I know what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
You know how I said I was gonna forget the thing. Hey, I forgot the thing. I always forget the thing. I always fucking forget the thing. Every single time I play. I've played this game so many times, and I always fucking forget. It's fine. We got there. We got there in the end. Unprompted, even.
Yeah.
I am a fool. And this is why y'all love me. There we go. Every time. Every goddamn time.
What are you doing?
Dad.
Eat it.
Did look like a delicious lozenge. A big old shiny marble.
She did eat it.
Yeah. I mean, you got. I'd have eaten it. I would have even kept it this long.
Forbidden candy. I mean, it's the crystallized aglophidus, isn't it?
What did you swallow?
Yeah, it's...
Delicious. Have your god baby. I am concerned that god baby was in her tum-tum. Like, her actual stomach. I don't think that's where babies are supposed to be.
Looks like God didn't make it.
I can't believe Heather aborted God.
And then did a one-liner about it.
Claudia!
Oh, hey, Claudia, maybe don't do that.
Lessa, you cannot kill God. I will.
We killed God.
I will burn God. If you can't do it, Alessa, I will.
Claudia!
Yeah, this is why we don't eat God.
No, she gets to be pepperoni.
That's bad pepperoni.
Yeah.
Is it because she ate God, or do you think she's got some, like, weird blood infection from wandering around barefoot in this rusty-ass town?
I mean, none of it helped, I think. It's gonna be compounding factors.
Fair.
The unimportant hole.
I don't care about that hole. Claudia may be related to James Sunderland. Well, I'm gonna just do a little save state.
Makes sense.
We could go through all the cutscenes again, but nobody really wants to.
What if we don't?
Yeah. Are you sure? I'm pretty sure that that's exactly what ominous holes are supposed to do. It's just like the thing, you know? It's just what happens. Can't believe Claudia got flattened like a pancake.
I was gonna kill you. This is God?
It's bad God.
Oh, it's a good bad god.
Yeah, no, it's very good. Weapons is what I'm attempting to do.
Oh, that's a good bad god.
Do it.
See the strategy. Oh,
It's all good. We're fine.
oh, 2 fire ones.
Fuck. Okay, no, it's fine.
Yeah. Same strat work, which does stop after you dodge the first one.
We are okay on health, but I am gonna top off.
That's fine.
Just because I don't remember how badly the fire hurts you if you get hit by it. And also, I have 21 shots left. Okay. I am gonna do this though, because that's full.
I know 2 with the same hand.
Cool.
We're under the show.
That is my last one.
You did a good pistol.
Whoa, too close. Understood. How badly did that hurt me? Okay. Fuck. Wanna come down? Well, I was hoping that Heather would run a little, just a little more quickly than she had decided to. But that's okay.
Oh god, okay, something hurt.
Yeah, she punched me.
I don't know which
We're
one
not
hurt you a lot and which one didn't hurt you that much. Yeah, she's not a good shot with the shotgun.
She's not good at aiming up is the main issue here.
Oh, she's aiming really low with both. It's because
Yeah,
she shoots them under out.
I need Lady to get onto the ground, please. Come on.
Oh,
Yeah. Nope, come back down here.
like,
Come on. Oop. Oh, I should probably reload.
not coming down. Okay.
Oh, Heather. Well, she decided that reloading was more important than running.
Hold on.
Come on.
Do something to make it go forwards? Because we didn't seem to be doing anything to make her do it to start with.
I think she just has to do it on her own.
Hey!
Okay.
Free, lots of shotgun time.
Let her down. She's got meat on her head, which is keeping her up. And then when the meat lets her go, like that... Oh, I still have one. Okay. Come on, meat. Let the lady down, meat. Excuse you. Heather. Come on.
2 shots in there, Heather. You fucked it.
Very slow to shoot. Come on.
Fun to internet when doing that weird wiggly pose. You can, if you hit him, then it makes him fall down, and also you can hit him melee attacks while doing that. Like it's the one time where they won't just punch you.
Okay.
I don't know what like triggers them to do it, and they spend 80-90% of the time just standing normally, which is not when you're allowed to do things. That's not your turn. I think the pistol were better at hitting him in the pelvis.
Yeah.
So if we need to do a second try at this, never mind.
No, we got it.
Bloody god. And stomped. First try, actually, first try.
First try. It helps having bullets. Cuz that was the main issue that we had the first time that I tried to do this on stream, was that we got to this point in the game and I had not nearly enough ammo to get us through. So it's mostly just waiting it out. Oh. Oh, oops.
Oh.
Oh, okay. Wait, I was like, but wait, I haven't played through this game on this emulator yet.
Sorry.
Heather, did
You don't have to call me that. I'm not hiding anymore.
Want me to use your real name? What was it again?
Cheryl. The name my father gave me.
You gonna let your hair color go back too?
I don't know. Don't you think blondes have more fun?
There you go. We done it.
The last Silent Hill game that Team Silent got to make 100% of.
Let me turn this down just a tiny bit. Yeah, the last game Team Silent got to make in full.
They were really cool.
It was a good
Like
game.
them.
I love 3. 1 is still my all-time favorite. But 3 is like right up there with it. Just because like I don't know, it's a great game on its own, but it's also just such a phenomenal sequel. And I know I've said it like a whole bunch at this point, but it's so good. It ties everything together really well. It's just good. It's a good game. And we finally beat it on stream, so there you go.
Dave, you did a really good job with 7 bullets. You had a ton of shotgun shells left.
Thank goodness. I learned from my mistake. It's a problem that is easy to have happen.
Silent Hill 3 don't give you like boss fountains or nothing. You don't find like a bunch of ammo or health or anything, and when you're gonna need it.
Yeah. Oh, so yeah, that's... Oh god, this is one of the last good Silent Hills. We have 4 left. As in game 4, The Room. Which I still really like, and I do think it's a good game, but it's not complete. It's in rough condition. And it's understandable why some people don't necessarily look on it as fondly. But I can see the potential and understand that it's not necessarily Team Silent's fault that it ended up being the way that it did. But Homecoming is next. Not to rain on everything.
Track it down.
Again, if it ends up being like too expensive, I can do it.
Too expensive, I'll have a look and see if I can emulate it.
Okay.
First, before you have to play, because it did offer that.
It's not a good game. I was talking to Emmy earlier about the short message, and I realized not about the short message. I was talking about the short message with them earlier, but we were talking about the combat trailer for the remake for 2, which I finally watched. And oh god, it looks bad. It looks bad.
I don't know why they wanted to show that. Like, I don't know what they wanted to show. I don't. Oh man.
God, what was it that I said? Hold on, I need to like scroll back real fast. So the fact that they're bringing back QTEs specifically from like Origins, hate that. What is that choice? Also, watching through it, I'm pretty sure that the run animation that James has is the exact same run animation that Leon has when he's got his pistol drawn.
I was gonna say they just like copied Resident Evil.
Absolutely, they.
But like everything looks worse across the board.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But no, it's very much Konami did not get their homework done. I guess Bloopers specifically did not get their homework done and looked over at Capcom and was like, "What y'all doing over there?"
The melee combat too on like a hit zooms in and checks the screen, and that is the Last of Us, right?
It follows the weapon. And that's so disorienting. Like, at least with, like, The Last of Us, yeah, it, like, zooms in and, like, shakes everything, but you're not... The focus isn't the weapon itself. And I feel like that's gonna lead to a lot of motion sickness for people, even for people who aren't necessarily prone to that. So that was an interesting choice. It's also... The combat genuinely reminds me of Homecoming's combat, of just being, like, really, like, actiony and like focused on action.
What?
And that's not great.
Shouldn't really need a combat trailer.
No. And that's the thing, like, to focus on a combat, like on combat for a Silent Hill game, I think Silent Hill games need combat. But not necessarily, like, as the focus. It has to be in there, but you have to feel like your character doesn't know what they're doing with their weapons. Because they're just people. They're just people who aren't necessarily, like, trained in fighting. And it should not be your go-to. It's there to, like, amp up the tension. You know, you could fight them, but you should probably run away most of the time. But there will be times where you get stuck and you have to do a fight, and it's going to be difficult.
The thing with survival horror in general is you have to make the snap decision. Is this a guy I'll need to take out, or is this... Oh, will I be good running past? Am I better on health or ammo? Like, oh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like... such a horrible idea to base your Silent Hill 2 remake on the Resident Evil 4 remake.
Yeah.
These are not the same thing. I like they made the tone like a little less silly for the remake. Quite a lot less silly for the remake, but you know, this Silent Hill 4 is not a serious game.
No.
And it is all about the combat.
It's like, even if you like look at it from the lens of it being more like Resident Evil 2 remake, it's still Resident Evil and Silent Hill are two distinctly different games, and they have always been distinctly different games, and they should remain distinctly different games.
It's just gonna be Resident Evil 2 remake, but with Pyramid Head instead of Mr. X.
Yep. Yep.
Oh no.
Not looking forward to it. It's gonna be rough.
You unlocking stuff over there?
Yeah, the results menu said, if you type this code in, you get a new costume. So I got a new costume. I got the Heather shirt. Trying to think of what else to say about Silent Hill 3. Stop talking about bad video games. Talk about this good video game. To be fair, I started it. But the only other things I can think about regarding like this game is there are technically 3 endings, I think. There's this ending that we got, which is only accessible, like, it's the only ending you can get your first time through the game, until you do New Game Plus, in which case you can either get an ending where Heather, like, kills Douglas, or you get the UFO ending if you do all the criteria, because of course it's got a UFO ending.
Yeah.
Yeah, so not too much difference there. It's nice that it is just a couple of endings, and as always, that the joke ending is hidden behind having to play the game through full once. I don't know. It's a good game.
It's not a hard path to cross, but they have failed to cross that bar once.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a very good game. It just has very good environments.
It's got great environments. The
And
sound
Heather's
design
great.
is so
The
good.
sound's
Heather
really
is
good.
so perfect. She's so different from the other protagonists that we've had in Silent Hill games before, and it's really refreshing, but it's still very Silent Hill. Which is like, I don't know. It feels like that would be a little difficult to navigate with a character that's as like sassy and as capable as Heather is.
I
Like
think
we're
that too. Like Heather's better at things than James or Harry were.
right. Well, it's like the assumption is like
Just come across like confident.
It's like I mentioned that like, you know, Silent Hill combat should be like clunky and difficult, and it like is in this one, but like she feels
but the enemies are
comfortable
also
dealing with enemies
way
and
more
stuff, like,
dangerous in this one.
absolutely, but it's like you'd imagine that like Harry would have like, you know, taken her to some like self-defense courses or something just because he knew that not necessarily this would happen, but that
he was
shit
actively
could
hiding
get-
her from the cult her whole life.
I don't know, it's just like there's so many like little things in it that sort of just like build up and help elevate the story that's being told. All the little like references to both of the other games are delightful. And it's lovely. It's a great way to like connect all of them without it necessarily really just being like, well, I guess at this point it didn't matter because they were the only ones who were doing it, but it's not necessarily being like, see, I am a Silent Hill game. That's more of an issue that has cropped up over the last, you know, decade. It's not necessarily a problem with these because they were the only ones doing this.
It's a big Origins problem.
Yeah, where they're just constantly being like, see, I am a real boy. It's like,
Look how
Origins.
unusually long these stairs are.
Oh, does that seem familiar? It's like there are some scenes in this that like do directly like are direct parallels to the other two games, but it's just so they don't draw attention to it in the same way. And it's nice, and so it's like if you've played the other ones, you're like, oh, I know what that is, and it's just like a nice, not quite Easter egg, but just definitely like a nice callback, and you're like, oh, that's fun. As opposed to it being like, I have to prove myself.
Some of the differences, like when Team Silent do it, and it's a nice throwback. It's like, yeah, I remember that. That was cool. And when it's someone else and they do it, it's like, get the name out of your mouth. Why have you done this?
It's nice to see you have maybe played that video game as well at one point. Please stop.
You've just made me play through 4 hours of Homecoming, and now you do this. Unbelievable.
Right. So yeah, Silent Hill 3, good fucking video game. I'm happy that we got through it. See, I can finish a game on stream. It can happen. Oh, this one in particular has just haunted me for a while because I just felt like very, very silly. It was not necessarily my fault, but I did manage my stuff a little poorly when we did this for, I think it was like a Halloween stream, and then followed up on it, and then I just said, nah, fuck it.
It is a problem that it doesn't like give you the things you need to have to fight the boss. Like you can't really damage him with melee attacks. You kind of, I guess you can hit him while they're wibbling. There's
Well, like,
that one animation they do where you can hit them, and any other time they'll just punch you back.
Well, that's exactly it.
And
So
it's
even
just
if you
gonna
can
be
get
4 hours of
those melee hits in there, you're going to get hit at least a couple of times while you're doing it. And like, who knows if you have enough health to like be
Yeah.
able to outlast
They
that.
don't give you a bunch of health when you go in either.
No. It's rough. It's rough out there. Oh, Farley's being a little menace out there. Let's I don't know if we have any other. I don't have any other thoughts. Silent Hill 3, good game, like it,
No, it's
much
just
better
really
than
good.
all the other Silent
Really good
Hills that are
fun.
coming out right now.
Yeah, a lot of the thing with Silent Hill 3 is it is kind of doing stuff from the previous two, but just very well. Like they've had time to think about it, and it like shows. I don't know.
They were able to take all the like, I don't even want to call them like loose threads, but like all of the plots that they had sort of just left out in the open and left a little ambiguous intentionally, and just sort of brought it all in and said, let's do this. Let's just close this out.
Yeah, it's not even just necessarily like story stuff though. Just like I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It feels the most Silent Hill of all the Silent Hills somehow.
Well, it's because they've done it twice before, and they've had the chance to really like refine what they were trying to go for previously, or had new ideas, and were like, we know how to actually like make this happen now. It's just cool. It's exciting.
It is definitely more of a sequel to the first one than the second one.
Oh, absolutely. It only, as far as 2 is concerned, it is very much just you're in the same place, and that's
fine
cool.
being a standalone story. Yeah. It's great. It works fine. There's not no notes.
It's just it's nice to see how some of the areas in 2 actually tie into the rest of town. Because it is like a lot of it is just very removed, intentionally so, and I think it benefited from it, especially since one, I mean, just the graphical difference between the two, having them be like slightly separate locations helps.
They could like, I don't know, the other world in 3 is great. It's horrible and you don't want to be there. It does feel like they just didn't have the technology to fully get everything across for the first one.
They had really good ideas and pulled it off really well for what they had. But yeah, having a console that could actually do the things that they wanted it to do.
Stuff like the transitions where you don't have to like go through a loading screen in the first game were like actually revolutionary. They made new tech to do that had never been seen before. Like a lot of the development, a lot of the like time and effort budget, if not actual budget, went on making it able to do like the antique shop transition and the one right at the start where you're in the alley.
Yeah.
Oh, they were really pushing up against the limit of what they could manage.
Oh, absolutely. But even then, they were still just like, they were still very limited. They did so much cool shit.
PS1.
It's
for
so
3,
impressive.
They got a lot more technology to work with, and it's the story they wanted to do, the game wanted to make, and they really went for it.
So good. God, I love it. Very, it's delightful. It's very nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've been streaming for 3 hours and 40 minutes. So I think we're gonna call it here. It is 9 o'clock at night for me. It is.
It's 3 a.m.
It's 3 a.m. for you. It is time to go. I don't have too many people on right now. John is currently streaming.
He's fishing though. Are we
He is
allowed
fishing.
to?
I've been watching his Dredge playthrough on YouTube.
Does Dredge look good?
Dredge looks good.
It's been on my list for ages. I don't want like spoilers or nothing.
I think
they look good.
He's at the point where he's like trying to 100% everything, which I assume means that he's like trying to get all the fish and finish all the side quests and stuff. But it's real interesting. I would consider playing it myself.
Damn.
Like, even with like all the mini games, I go into it knowing that it is just like it's not just fishing mini games, but knowing that it is heavily focused on it I would still consider playing it just because it's cool. It looks cool.
Nice.
So
That's a ring any
yeah,
bells.
that's there you go. It's got really interesting stories. The art is wonderful. It's really like simple, but really pretty. There's just like a lot happening, and it's really cool, and it is very like checklisty. As far as like, you know, I need to go here and do this thing, and then I have to go here and do this thing, but you can do all of it at whatever pace you want to do it at, and that's cool.
Yeah.
You get to like upgrade your ship and manage an inventory. I do like the management aspect just because it's like an RV suitcase, and I just want to fit things in it.
Like all the engines and fishing nets into your attaché.
Yeah. So yeah, Dredge seems like a really cool game. So yeah, we're gonna go watch John do some of that. I don't know. I guess we won't be streaming tomorrow. I might do something. I don't fucking know. I might also just take the time to work on some YouTube videos. We'll figure it out then. But for now, take care, everyone. Thanks for hanging out, being here while we finish this silly little video game. Thanks for hanging out, playing the Silent Hills with me.
Thanks for playing the Silent Hills for me.
All right. Well, let's get out of here, friends. We'll see y'all later.
Bye.
Bye.